The moment Ethan felt the beetle's wing go slack, the monster snapped. It thrashed like something possessed. The remaining wing hammered the air in violent bursts while all 6 legs clawed at the ground, tearing up dirt and roots. Its armored body rolled and twisted, slamming into trees hard enough to crack trunks. It was trying to shake him off. Ethan clung to the seam between its carapace plates, iron-enhanced fingers hooked like clamps. But the beast's convulsions only grew wilder. Black ichor smeared across the shell, turning everything slick. His grip started to slip. "Just die already," he snarled, forcing Han Wei's sword deeper. The beetle gave one final, explosive heave. Ethan flew, his back smashed into a huge tree with bone-rattling force. Crunch! Bark erupted in splinters. The trunk caved in where his body hit, leaving a deep crater in the wood. Hiss! He sucked air through clenched teeth as pain speared up his spine. Strong enough to dent a tree didn't mean he could shrug off the impact like nothing. The beetle screeched, almost triumphant, and wheeled toward him. Its mandibles clicked, hungry and furious. One wing dangled uselessly. The other still worked just enough to keep it mobile. It dug its legs into the forest floor and charged. Ethan forced himself upright, ignoring the fire in his back. "Not bad," he muttered, spitting blood onto the leaves. "My turn." Enhanced speed flared. He shot sideways as the beetle smashed into the tree behind him. The ancient trunk collapsed with a thunderous crack, but the monster barely slowed. It pivoted fast, tracking him with unnerving precision. Ethan loosed 3 arrows in rapid succession, aiming for the softer joint near its thorax. 2 clanged off the armor and bounced away. The 3rd sank in. The beetle shrieked in pain, but the wound didn't stop it. If anything, it made it angrier. It surged forward again, faster now, mandibles spread wide enough to shear a man in half. Ethan jumped, trying to vault over it. He wasn't fast enough. Shit, it caught me. One pincer snapped shut on his leg midair, ripping through cloth and biting deep into his calf. Arg! White-hot pain shot up his body as he hit the ground hard. He rolled, barely avoiding a follow-up strike that would have ended it. The wound was nasty. When he glanced down, he saw muscle split open close to the bone, blood pouring freely. Then his regeneration kicked in. The edges of the gash began to knit slowly, not nearly as fast as that bear's E-grade healing had been, but enough to keep him from bleeding out. "That's going to mess up my movement," he growled, limping backward to widen the gap. The beetle sensed it. It pressed in immediately, scuttling forward with sickening speed, pincers clicking like they were counting down to his death. Screech! Ethan fainted left, then dove right as the beetle committed. He rolled under its body and slashed upward as he passed. His blade bit into the softer underbelly, and black ichor poured out in a heavy stream. The beetle shrieked again, a sound no insect should ever make. It twisted, stabbing with its back legs, trying to skewer him. Ethan barely cleared the reach, enhanced speed, dragging him out of the danger zone. His injured leg throbbed, but the bleeding had slowed. Regeneration was doing its job, inch by inch. "I need to end this fast," he muttered, scanning the trees. "That screech is going to bring company, and I don't get to choose what rank shows up." The beetle suddenly reared up, underside exposed. For a split second, Ethan thought it was a mistake. Then its abdomen pulsed. Once, twice, and a jet of acidic fluid blasted toward him. Shit! Ethan threw a protective shield, just in time. The acid splashed against the barrier with a vicious hiss, chewing into the forest floor beside him. Leaves blackened. Dirt melted into bubbling sludge. That was close. Way too close. He clenched his jaw. The armor was still too tough. The acid kept him from staying near it. And even with one wing useless, it still had enough mobility to keep him from circling cleanly. This is taking too long. His eyes hardened. Fine. Everything, then. He activated iron enhancement, hardening his body for the next hit. When the beetle charged, Ethan didn't dodge. He ran straight at it. Enhanced speed drove him forward like a bullet aimed at those pincers. At the last possible instant, he dropped low and slid beneath its body, sword raised. The blade tore a long gash through the softer chitin from front to back. Ichor poured. The beetle recoiled. But it wasn't finished. As Ethan emerged from under it, one back leg whipped across his chest like a spiked hammer. The impact launched him through the air. He slammed into another tree. This time he didn't leave a dent. He crashed straight through the trunk. Wood exploded. The tree toppled behind him as he hit the ground and skidded through the underbrush. Blood flooded his mouth. He coughed, tasting iron. "Shit," he rasped, voice shaking. "That definitely broke ribs." Even as he lay there, gasping, his regeneration was already working. Slow, steady, mending what it could. But the beetle was still alive. And it was coming. The beetle crept forward this time, slower and more guarded, as if it had finally learned Ethan wouldn't break easily. Thick ichor dripped from the gash in its belly, pattering onto the forest floor. Ethan forced himself upright. Pain grated through his ribs every time he breathed. His sword was gone, knocked somewhere into the trees, and while his bow still hung across his back, he didn't have the space or time to draw and fire. So he chose the only option left. Everything, all at once. Enhanced speed flared, pale blue light washing over his body. The world around him dulled into sluggish motion as his mind sharpened and accelerated. The distance between them shrank like a joke. 20 meters vanished. He slammed forward like a bronze cannon shot, reaching the beetle before it could even snap its pincers twice. "Let's see how tough you really are." The insect's mandibles opened wide, eager to shear him in half. At the final heartbeat, Ethan summoned his protective shield. The pincers crashed into it with a brutal clang that rattled up his arms, but the barrier held. Pain stabbed through him anyway. "Still hurts like hell." He didn't pause. Iron enhancement surged through his arm, turning his skin glossy and metallic, his muscles locking into weapon-grade density. His hands became hammers, knuckles built to smash instead of shatter. He drove his fist into the beetle's carapace. The impact was so hard the ground buckled beneath them. Dirt and leaves kicked up as Ethan targeted the same hairline fracture from earlier, every strike landing with ruthless precision guided by his bronze-rank intelligence. The crack widened, branching outward like lightning across polished black chitin. "Break, damn you!" The beetle answered with raw violence. Its remaining wings shrieked as it beat wildly, stirring the air into a screaming gust. A serrated leg hooked Ethan's side, tearing cloth and flesh in one ripping pass. Another carved across his back, opening a wound deep enough to cripple an ordinary man. "Ah!" Ethan's scream tore out as blood poured down his body and soaked into the dirt. But even as life spilled, his regeneration pulsed, sealing vessels, tightening torn muscle, forcing his strength to stay with him. The mandibles snapped at his face. Ethan dipped his head just in time, sharp edges missing his eyes by a few millimeters. Acidic spittle sprayed from the beetle's mouth parts, hissing where it struck his skin. Still, neither backed away. Neither could. This wasn't a fight anymore. It was a verdict. Ethan kept punching. The crack finally gave way with a sharp, splintering pop that echoed through the forest. On his next strike, his fist broke through the shell and plunged wrist-deep into the beetle's inner cavity. The creature went mad. Its legs blurred, one smashing across Ethan's face with sickening force. His skin split from ear to chin, blood arcing outward and painting nearby leaves red. Another limb speared through his shoulder. Ethan felt it punch in, felt the tip burst out his back in a spray of gore. Stars exploded behind his eyes. The pain was so intense it tried to drown him, to shut his mind down completely. But something deeper than pain kept him moving. Inside the beetle, his iron-hard fingers closed around something solid and warm, something that pulsed like a living heartbeat and radiated power. The core. "You're mine." The sound that ripped from Ethan wasn't human. It was a predator's claim. He wrenched the core free with a savage pull. Viscous fluid gushed from the torn cavity, coating his arm to the elbow. The beetle's movements changed instantly, its coordinated fury collapsing into clumsy, unbalanced thrashing as its power source was ripped away. Ethan staggered back, knees threatening to fold, but he forced himself forward anyway. He kept striking until the beetle's legs curled inward. One final shudder ran through it, and then it went still. The glowing core throbbed in his bloody fist, pulsing in time with his racing heart. Ethan collapsed onto the dirt, spread out like a corpse that refused to stay dead. His body was wrecked, torn, punctured, bleeding, but his F+ regeneration kept working. The edges of his facial wound pulled together. The hole in his shoulder began sealing from the inside out, slow and stubborn. Minutes passed. When he finally moved again, it was with a groan and a shaky breath. Ethan pushed himself up, swaying, and stared at the dead monster. Ferocious beast, black beetle, iron enhancement talent. Eat, devour, rank, mid-bronze. Devour. You have devoured the black beetle. You have evolved the iron enhancement talent. You have gained +5 strength. You have evolved the black beetle transformation. Power flooded into him immediately, heavy and real. Ethan looked down at the core in his hand. He didn't want to waste it, but he didn't have a choice. It would have been nice to trade this for a few more low bronze cores. After the fight, and after the mistake he'd made earlier, letting jealousy push him into exposing too much, he couldn't step foot in the 2nd District's core exchange pavilion anymore. So he devoured it. The surge hit harder than before. +10 strength. Ethan exhaled slowly, feeling the strength settle into his bones and muscles like a new foundation. Status: Human, Ethan Brandon. Rank: Low Bronze. Talents: Enhanced Speed, F. Protective Shield, F+. Iron Enhancement, F+. Accuracy Enhancement, F+. Regeneration, F+. Dagger Wield, F. Transformations: Shadowfawn Wolf, Peak Iron. Razorback Boar, High Iron. Black Beetle, Mid-Bronze. Brown Bear, Mid-Bronze. Level 2. Health points, 700. Mana points, 600. Strength, 75. Agility, 60. Intelligence, 60. Vitality, 70. Free attributes, 5. Skills: Basic Footwork, Novice 10%.
Hey everyone, Firescale Audiobooks here. If there's a novel you'd love to hear more of, you can support us on Patreon or Ko-fi. Depending on your tier, I'll make extra parts just for the stories you're most excited about. Usually I can only upload 4 to 5 parts of each novel, but with your support, we can go beyond that. And of course, don't forget to hit subscribe. It helps more than you know.
After the beetle battle, exhaustion crashed over Ethan like a wave. His regeneration talent had closed his wounds, but mental fatigue lingered, his mana reserves depleted from activating multiple talents simultaneously. Although he wanted nothing more than rest, he was unable to. "I need to get stronger," he muttered, wiping blood from his face. "I'm being hunted by humans and beasts. No time to rest. Not with General Han's men searching the city. Not with silver rank monsters preparing to attack." Everything counted now. The next few hours blurred together. A Peak Iron Shadowfawn Wolf fell to his arrows. A High Iron Razorback charged to its death. A pack of smaller beasts scattered before his transformed state. None provided the attribute gains or talents he craved, but their cores weren't bad. After some time, Ethan checked the eastern horizon. The faintest lightening of the sky warned of approaching dawn. "Not a bad harvest," he said, extracting the core from his final victim. He stored the core alongside the others in his ring. Not enough to change the world, but enough to advance his plans. All right, that's enough hunting for now. His body demanded rest. Even bronze-rank warriors had limits, and he'd pushed his to the edge. 4 hours of sleep would restore his mana and let his regeneration talent finish its work. Returning to the city proved easier than leaving it. The night guards, bored and drowsy after their uneventful shift, barely patrolled the section of wall he'd mapped as vulnerable. All it took was a quick climb, a silent vault, and he was back in District 3's filthy streets. The restaurant's back entrance unlocked, and Ethan slipped inside, careful not to wake Lynn or her father as he made his way to the storage room that now served as a sanctuary. The couch had never looked so inviting. He collapsed onto it fully clothed, his body finally surrendering to exhaustion. A few hours later, Ethan woke to the sound of the storage room door creaking open. He jolted upright, hand automatically reaching for the knife hidden beneath his pillow. Bronze rank reflexes had him halfway to a fighting stance before his conscious mind caught up. Sorry, I must have woken you up. Lynn stood in the doorway, a tray balanced in her hands. Morning light filtered through the small window behind her, casting her silhouette in a gentle glow. It's fine, Ethan said, relaxing his posture. I was about to get up anyway. Lynn's eyes widened slightly as she took in his appearance. Though he'd washed most of the blood off before returning, bruises still mottled his exposed skin. The deep gash on his face had mostly healed thanks to his regeneration talent, but a fresh pink scar remained. You went out last night, she said. Not a question. Ethan didn't deny it. Had some business to take care of. Fighting business, looks like. She set the tray down on a nearby crate. Rice porridge, steamed buns, and hot tea. The simple meal smelled better than any feast at the military canteen. Something like that. Lynn lingered by the door, clearly wanting to ask more, but hesitating. Why are you helping me? Ethan asked before she could speak. You and your father. You know I'm trouble. She considered the question, head tilting slightly. You seem like a nice guy. Is that why you're helping? That's it. Lynn did not respond and simply smiled. Some soldiers came by this morning asking questions, showing a sketch. What did you tell them? That we haven't seen anyone matching that description. She shrugged. It wasn't hard to lie. They barely looked at me. Ethan nodded, tension easing from his shoulders. Thank you. Just eat before it gets cold, she said, turning to leave. Thank you for the food, he said, looking at her back as she left. You are welcome. She turned to respond before leaving and closing the door softly behind her. He stared at the door for a second. Then he turned to the meal, suddenly aware of how ravenous he felt after a night of hunting. The porridge disappeared in seconds, followed by 2 steamed buns that barely touched the sides of his throat. Bronze rank metabolism burned through calories at an alarming rate, especially after regenerating multiple wounds. I really need to learn how to cook, he muttered, his mouth still full as he stuffed in the last bite. Maybe I should ask Lynn's father to teach me someday. Cooking had never been a priority in either of his lives. His first existence ended too early for such skills, and military scouts ate whatever slop the canteen provided. But now, with power growing daily and his future uncertain, self-sufficiency mattered more than ever. After finishing every crumb, Ethan realized that he had nothing to do. Maybe I should try practicing my basic footwork skill. He thought, glancing at the area around him. After practicing for an hour or so in the small storage room, Ethan checked his status. Human, Ethan Brandon. Rank, low bronze. Talents, enhanced speed, F+, protective shield, F+, iron enhancement, F+, accuracy enhancement, F+, regeneration, F+, dagger wield, F. Transformations, Shadow Fawn Wolf, Peak Iron, Razorback Boar, Peak Iron, Black Beetle, Mid-Bronze, Brown Bear, Mid-Bronze. Level 2. Health points, 700. Mana points, 600. Strength, 75. Agility, 60. Intelligence, 60. Vitality, 70. Free attributes, 5. Skills, Basic Footwork, Novice, 12%. His skill progression had barely increased despite the intense workout. Only 2%. He frowned, wiping sweat from his brow. No room to move properly in here. Can't practice full sequences. Still, progress was progress. His enhanced speed talent had evolved to the F+ rank from last night's hunt. In District 2, inside a lavish manor house, a porcelain vase shattered against the wall. What do you mean you haven't found him? Han Wei's roar echoed through the ceiling, servants scurrying from the dining hall like frightened mice. Only one remained, Feng, one of his father's trusted attendants. The man kept his eyes downcast, hands folded before him. This lowly one begs forgiveness, young master, Feng murmured, forehead nearly touching the floor in his bow. We've searched every inn, every tavern. We've questioned the military, checked his barracks. It's as if he vanished. Han Wei grabbed a priceless jade table, a gift from the Capital Lord, and smashed it against the marble floors. The sound of shattering treasure barely soothed his rage. "A mere scout," he snarled, his voice suddenly quiet and more terrifying than his shouting. "A nobody from District 3. He humiliated me in my own domain, and you're telling me he's outsmarted my father's entire network." Blood trickled down his chin where he'd bitten through his lip. "His family," Han Wei whispered, eyes gleaming with something that made even foam shiver. "Find them. Anyone he cares about. Anyone who shares his blood." "Young master, there's no one." "Impossible." The word exploded from Han Wei, a crystal decanter following it against the wall. "Everyone has someone. Parents, siblings, friends, lovers. Find them." Feng swallowed hard. He was raised in the Southern District Orphanage. No known blood relations. His military file lists no emergency contacts. Han Wei froze, a predatory stillness overtaking him. "The orphanage?" "Yes, young master." "Who oversees it?" "A retired soldier. Low bronze rank. No connections to anyone of significance." A smile spread across Han Wei's face. Not the expression of joy, but something that resembled a blade being unsheathed. "Perfect." The word carried death in its syllables. "Burn it." Feng's head snapped up, shock momentarily overriding protocol. "Young master." "Burn it to ashes." Han Wei's voice was terrifyingly calm now. "But first, find out if anyone there remembers our friend. Anyone who might have cared for him. I want them separated for special attention." He walked to the window, gazing toward District 3 with eyes that promised retribution. "No one defies a Han without consequences. If I can't find him," his fist clenched, knuckles white, "I'll make him come to me. When he smells the smoke and hears the screams." Feng bowed lower, cold dread settling in his stomach. "When should we dash?" "Tonight." Han waited and turned from the window. "Do it tonight." Feng backed out of the room, sweat beading on his forehead despite the manor's cool air. 20 years serving the Han family had shown him many things: cruelty, power, ambition. But the darkness in the young master's eyes just now was something new, something dangerous. As the door closed, Han Wei lifted a crystal glass, studying how the light refracted through the expensive material. "No one humiliates a Han," he whispered to the empty room. "No one." The glass shattered in his grip, blood mixing with alcohol as it dripped to the marble floor. Meanwhile, Ethan slipped from the restaurant's back in trance, his hood drawn low. As he turned a corner, a familiar figure caught his eye. Morrison, his former captain. The veteran scout stood by a weapons stall. Ethan ducked behind a fruit cart, enhanced speed ready to activate if needed. Morrison hadn't spotted him yet. "You buying, or just looking?" the fruit vendor demanded. "Sorry," Ethan said, grabbing a few apples and dropping star coins in the man's hand. "Keep the change." He blended back into the crowd, keeping Morrison in his peripheral vision. The captain wasn't alone, with 4 scouts with him. "Are they looking for me? Or are they just buying things? Either way, I need to be careful." Night descended over the city, shadows lengthening as Ethan slipped past the guards and into the forest. Meanwhile, across District 3, a different kind of darkness gathered. "Remember the plan?" Feng instructed the men behind him, his voice low. "Make them feel welcome and safe. Treat Ethan as a hero whose friends deserve rewards. Get names. Get relationships." Murmurs of acknowledgement rippled through the group. 3 men total, all wearing simple merchant clothing. Nothing that would reveal their true purpose. "Good." Feng straightened his collar and knocked on the orphanage's weathered door. Footsteps approached from inside, light, unhurried. The door swung open to reveal an elderly woman, her silver hair tied in a neat bun. Despite the late hour, her eyes remained bright with kindness, crow's feet crinkling at the corners of her mouth from decades of smiles. "Hello, gentlemen. How can I help?" Her voice carried the warmth of someone who had spent a lifetime caring for others. "Good evening, Mrs. Feng inquired, his smile revealing nothing of his intentions. "Chun. Mrs. Chun." She smiled, the gesture lighting up her entire face. Behind her, children's laughter echoed from deeper within the building. The sounds of a Fappy family, cobbled together from misfortune but bound by genuine affection. Mrs. Chen's apron bore faint stains from the evening meal she'd likely just finished serving. A small wooden pendant hung from her neck, crude but lovingly carved, a gift from one of her many cared children. "We're representatives from the District 2 Merchant Guild," Feng lied smoothly. "We're establishing a scholarship fund for promising orphans, particularly those who've gone on to serve the city." "Oh," Mrs. Chen's face brightened further, hope blooming where suspicion should have dwelled. "How wonderful! Please come in, come in. The children are finishing dinner. Would you like some tea?" She stepped aside, ushering them toward warmth and innocence. Behind her, a wall of children's drawings decorated the entryway, stick figures holding hands under bright suns. Names and ages carefully noted in Mrs. Chen's handwriting. Over 40 years of love poured into these walls, into these forgotten children. By morning, it would all be ash. As Mrs. Chen led them toward the main hall, chattering about her success stories with grandmotherly pride, a small girl peeked around a corner. No more than 5, with mismatched socks and curious eyes. "Who are they, Nai?" she asked, using the affectionate term for grandmother. "Important visitors, little sparrow," Mrs. Chen replied, gently smoothing the child's unruly hair. "Run, tell cook to prepare the good tea." The girl nodded solemnly, taking the responsibility with adorable seriousness as she scampered off. Feng's men exchanged glances. Orders were orders. Mrs. Chun turned back to her guests, completely unaware that she had just welcomed death into her home. "Now, then," she beamed, "tell me more about this scholarship. I have so many bright children who could benefit. We're particularly interested in former residents who've distinguished themselves. It helps us identify potential in current children." "Oh," Mrs. Chen's face lit up. "So many success stories to share. There's Jian, who joined the city guard, and Lin Wei, who's apprenticed to a blacksmith." As she spoke, Feng's men dispersed casually through the room, memorizing exits, counting children, evaluating witnesses. A teenage boy distributed teacups, his observant eyes lingering on the weapons poorly concealed beneath the visitors' cloaks. He frowned slightly, but said nothing. "What about Ethan Brandon?" Feng asked, his voice carefully modulated for casual interest. "We've heard his name mentioned recently." Mrs. Chen's smile faltered slightly. "Ethan? Yes, he was one of ours. Quiet boy. Very determined. Were you close to him?" Feng probed. "Any special connection?" The elderly caretaker's eyes softened with memory. "I've raised hundreds of children, sir. They're all special to me. But some more than others, surely," Feng pressed. "Special talents? Favorite teachers? Friends who still talk about him?" An older girl by the kitchen door stiffened, almost imperceptibly. Her mind immediately linked those people to the soldiers who came asking for Ethan a day prior. Unfortunately, Mrs. Chun, due to her old age, wasn't able to link the two due to the way they spoke. One of Feng's men noticed, shifting position to block the exit behind her. Well, Mrs. Chun considered, he was very close to Mrs. Liao, our former cook. And little Hong Wei followed him everywhere. He's 16 now, helping in our garden. The teenage boy who'd served tea edged toward the hallway, something in the visitor's questions triggering his street-honed instincts. One of Feng's men casually intercepted him. Sure. Would you mind showing me to the washroom?" the man asked with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Outside, darkness deepened as 3 more of Han Wei's men quietly surrounded the building, oil canisters hidden beneath their cloaks. "Here is the washroom, sir," the boy said, pointing to a door at the end of the narrow hallway. His name was Liu, 16 years old, and already carrying the wariness of someone much older. Something about these visitors made his skin crawl, the way their eyes cataloged everything, the bulges beneath their cloaks. "Thank you." The man smiled, the expression as empty as a doll's. "I appreciate your help." Liu nodded and turned to leave, already formulating how to warn Mrs. Chun. These weren't merchants. No merchant carried concealed weapons or asked such pointed questions. A hand clamped onto his shoulder, fingers digging into muscle within human strength. "Actually," the man whispered, "I could use a bit more help." Lou tried to call out, but a calloused palm slammed over his mouth as he was yanked backward into the washroom. The door closed with a soft click. MF. His scream died against the hand. His feet kicked out, connecting with nothing. The grip tightened. No heroes today, boy. The man's voice remained conversational as he applied precise pressure to Lou's neck. Nothing personal. Lou's vision dimmed at the edges. He'd always been the protector, the one who looked after the younger children when the bullies came, the one who taught them to stand up for themselves. Now he couldn't even save himself. His last thought before consciousness faded was of little Mei Ling, who just learned to write her name, who trusted him to keep the monsters away. His body slumped, caught efficiently by the assassin who lowered him to the floor with practiced ease. First one, neutralized, the man sub-vocalized to the communication crystal hidden in his collar. Speed up the process. They will most likely start questioning his disappearance. In the main room, Fong continued his performance, listening attentively as Mrs. Chun shared stories of her children's accomplishments. Each name was mentally cataloged, each connection to Ethan noted. He was such a quiet boy, she reminisced, but so protective of the younger ones. When bullies came around, Ethan would stand between them and our little ones. Never back down, even when outnumbered. How fascinating, Fong said, perfectly mimicking interest. And you mentioned a Mrs. Liao? His favorite cook, you said? Mrs. Chun nodded, pouring more tea. Retired now, but she still visits. Lives just 3 streets over. Treats Ethan like the son she never had. Another name, another target. And this Hong Wei, the one who followed him around? Working in our garden now, Mrs. Chun beamed. Wants to be just like Ethan when he grows up. Join the scouts, protect the city. Such a good influence, our Ethan. In the kitchen, one of Feng's men was already immobilizing the cook and her assistant. Room by room, the orphanage fell under their control. Outside, the last of the day's light faded completely. Han Wei's vengeance was about to begin. Orange flames clawed at the night sky, devouring the orphanage with terrifying speed. The building had gone up like tinder, accelerant, ensuring no easy escape for those trapped inside. Any water awakeners? Help! A man shouted, his voice cracking with desperation as he rushed toward the inferno. Others joined him, forming a futile bucket chain from the nearest well. The fires roared drowned most sounds, but not the screams. Never the screams. There are children in there. A woman collapsed to her knees as neighbors held her back from rushing into certain death. My daughter volunteers there. Please. Guards finally arrived, too late to save lives, only to control the growing crowd of horrified onlookers. God have mercy, one whispered as a small figure appeared briefly at an upper window, silhouetted against the flames before vanishing back into the hellscape. A section of roof collapsed with a thunderous crash, sending a fresh plume of sparks skyward. The heat pushed everyone back, faces illuminated in flickering orange as tears cut tracks through soot-stained cheeks. Who would do this? An old man demanded, his walking stick trembling in his grip. What monster burns children? Inside the inferno, Mrs. Chen's records burned to ash. Her carefully maintained files on every child she'd raised. The drawings on the walls. The small, treasured possessions of children who had nothing else. Half a district away, Fong and his team moved silently through shadow-draped alleys, their mission complete. Only Hong Wei, unconscious and bound, remained as evidence of their visit. The 16-year-old boy who had idolized Ethan now hung like a sack between 2 men, blissfully unaware of what had happened to his home, to his family. Delivery for the young master. Fong sub-vocalized into his communication crystal. 1 package secured. The rest had been left to burn. Behind them, the glow of the fire painted District 3's skyline. Screams still echoed, growing fainter with distance. Emergency bells rang, summoning what little help might come. Too little, too late. 27 children. 4 teachers. 3 cooks. 1 elderly caretaker who had devoted her life to giving unwanted children chance. All sacrificed for one man's wounded pride. In the forest depths, Ethan pursued power with single-minded focus, completely unaware of the tragedy his actions had inadvertently triggered back in the city. The orphanage that had raised him burned while he hunted, its occupants paying the ultimate price for his defiance of Hanwei. This doesn't make sense, he thought, scanning the darkness for prey. I'm deeper than I've ever gone, yet only one low bronze beast in ours. They're being recruited, he realized, a chill running down his spine. The silver ranks are gathering an army. Tiana's migration charts that Tiana was talking about suddenly made more sense. This wasn't a random movement. It was coordinated, organized, and intelligent. His enhanced senses detected movement ahead, something large moving through the forest around 50 or so meters away from him. Ethan readied his short sword, creeping forward in silence. His breathing was controlled, and his steps were soft on the ground. More than one, he realized as the sounds separated in his mind. He crouched behind a thick tree, peering through at a pack of shadow fawn wolves moving together. His status vision immediately categorized the threat. 5 wolves total, 3 at peak iron rank, 1 at low bronze, and their leader, a massive silver-furred beast with scars crisscrossing its muzzle, was at mid-bronze rank. That leader alone would be trouble, Ethan thought, instinctively suppressing his presence. The whole pack would tear me apart. Running would be the smart choice. Even bronze rank humans knew to avoid wolf packs. But Ethan wasn't just any bronze rank. I'll track them, he decided, keeping a safe distance as the pack continued their journey. Find a den. Maybe pick off stragglers. The wolves moved with eerie coordination, the smaller ones forming a protective formation around their leader. Ethan shadowed them for nearly an hour, his enhanced speed talent allowing him to keep pace while maintaining distance. The forest grew denser around him. The wolves paused at a stream, drinking quickly before continuing eastward. Always eastward. They're heading somewhere specific. More tracks joined the wolves' path, boar prints, bear claw marks, even the distinctive trail of serpent. Ethan continued following, each step taking him deeper into danger and closer to the truth of what threatened the city. After a short while, the wolves arrived at their destination. Ethan's eyes widened as he took in the scene in front of him. A massive clearing stretched before him, at least half a kilometer across. Where trees should have stood, only flattened stumps remained, as if some giant hand had swept them away. And in that clearing, beasts. Hundreds of them. Shadow fawn wolves, razorback boars, ironhide bears, black beetles, species Ethan had never even seen before, all gathered in concentric circles around a central point. His status vision flickered frantically, trying to catalog all the threats. Ferocious beast, razorback boar, rank, high bronze. Ferocious beast, crystal gorilla, rank, high bronze. Ferocious beast, shadow fawn wolf, rank, peak bronze. Bronze rank beasts everywhere, dozens of them, some approaching silver. But it was what stood at the center that froze Ethan's blood. 3 massive creatures that radiated power like heat from a forge. A serpent with scales that gleamed like liquid metal. A gorilla with crystals covering some parts of its body. A 6-legged panther. Ferocious beast, silver serpent. Rank, mid-silver. Poison talent, D+ gray. Ferocious beast, crystal A. Rank, mid-silver. Crystal hardening talent, D gray. Ferocious beast, panther. Rank, mid-silver. Speed talent, D gray. Silver ranks, Ethan thought, an ill feeling settling in his stomach. He was in an extremely dangerous territory, and he knew once caught he would not be able to do anything. I can't even escape. That panther is so much faster than me. It shouldn't be possible. Silver rank beasts were territorial, solitary predators. They didn't cooperate. They didn't gather armies. Yet here they were, somehow communicating with the assembled horde, organizing them into what could only be described as a military formation. Ethan's mind raced, calculating the threat. A single silver rank could devastate a city district. 3, with an army of bronze ranks? The city walls would fall in seconds. This is worse than I thought. He realized, a cold sweat breaking out. The silver serpent's tongue flicked again, tasting his scent on the wind. Its massive head began to turn toward his hiding spot. No time to run. Not from a silver-ring predator. Ethan activated his transformation immediately, his body contorting as chitinous plates erupted from his skin. Bones shifted, limbs multiplied, his entire form compressing and reshaping into the black beetle. Transformation. Black beetle. Mid-bronze. Active. The transformation completed just as the serpent's gaze swept past his position. Ethan froze, every instinct screaming at him to flee, but flight would only trigger the predator's chase response. Instead, he remained motionless, just one more beast in a forest full of them. The serpent's attention lingered a moment longer, then shifted back to the gathered horde. It hadn't identified him. Whether it was because of the distance or transformation, Ethan did not want to find out. Ethan observed the clearing more carefully now. Despite the gathering's apparent organization, beasts still came and went. Scout parties dispatched, hunting groups returning with prey to share. I could wait for a weak bronze group to leave, he realized, a desperate plan forming. Ambush them. It was madness. The old Ethan would never have considered it. But the old Ethan hadn't witnessed an army of monsters preparing to slaughter an entire city. Safety was no longer an option. He had to take a risk to get stronger, otherwise he would only get slaughtered just like everyone else. I need power, he thought, the hunger for strength burning within him. Need to be strong enough to protect myself. And he backed away slowly, his beetle form allowing him to blend with the shadowy undergrowth. Once at a safe distance, he circled the clearing, looking for the perfect ambush point along one of the departure routes he had identified. He settled on an ambush point where a narrow ravine created a natural bottleneck. Any group passing through would be momentarily vulnerable, unable to scatter or maneuver effectively. Perfect, he thought, climbing a massive tree overlooking the position. Now to wait. Time dragged, each minute feeling like an hour as more beasts arrived at the main clearing. A small group, detached from the horde, heading down the very path Ethan monitored. 3 beasts total. 3 razorbacks, with 2 being at the peak iron razorbacks and 1 mid-bronze leading them. 3 beasts total. 3 razorbacks, 2 at peak iron and 1 mid-bronze leader stomping ahead of them. Doable, Ethan thought, studying their formation. The mid-bronze would be a challenge, but isolated from the horde, he could handle it. He scanned the area once more, his senses looking for any sign of nearby threats. Nothing, just these 3, moving away from the main gathering. Perfect. Ethan immediately canceled the transformation, returning to his human form. The bow appeared in his hands, pulled from his storage ring in one fluid motion. Start with the weakest, he calculated, nocking an arrow. Save energy for the leader. His accuracy enhancement talent activated as he drew the bowstring. The peak iron razorback's vulnerable spot, the small gap where skull met spine, appeared almost highlighted to his enhanced perception. The arrow flew true, hissing through leaves before embedding itself halfway through the boar's skull. The iron-enhanced hide splintered on impact, insufficient against Ethan's precision strike. You have killed a peak iron razorback boar. The beast dropped instantly, legs crumpling as it hit the forest floor with a heavy thud. The remaining 2 whirled toward the sound, their tusks aimed at his direction. The mid-bronze leader's eyes locked onto Ethan's position with unnerving intelligence. Scree! Its battle cry echoed through the trees, a warning to its companion and a challenge to Ethan. Ethan was already moving, enhanced speed carrying him to a new position as the second peak iron boar charged his previous location. Another arrow knocked, another accuracy enhancement activated. This shot punched through the second boar's eye socket, the beast's momentum carrying it forward several more steps before it crashed into a tree trunk. You have killed a peak iron razorback boar. The small friar down. Now only the main threat is left. The mid-bronze leader pawed the ground, tusks glowing with accumulated energy. Unlike the previous boars, the leader did not mindlessly charge at Ethan. It was clearly waiting and analyzing him. Ethan returned his bow to the storage ring, and drew his sword. Arrows wouldn't penetrate that hide. I need to fight it in close combat. Just you and me now, he muttered, activating iron enhancement as metallic sheen spread across his skin. The boar's response was immediate, a burst of speed that belied its massive bulk. Ethan barely had time to raise protective shield before 300 kilos of muscle and tusk slammed into his defense. The impact sent him skidding backwards, boots carving furrows in the forest floor. His shield cracked, but held. Stronger than I expected, he thought, adjusting his strategy as the boar circled for another charge. The razorback's tusks scraped against Ethan's shield, the sound like steel on glass as fracture lines spread across the magical barrier. One more hit, and it would shatter. Need to end this quickly, Ethan thought, acutely aware that the noise might draw attention from the gathering. Every second I waste is a risk. He released his shield and activated enhanced speed instead, darting to the side as the boar charged past him. His sword lashed out, scoring a hit along the creature's flank, but its iron enhancement deflected the worst of the damage. Blood leaked from the shallow wound, enraging the beast further. It wheeled around with surprising agility, its eyes narrowing. "Just die already," Ethan muttered, readying his stance. This time, the boar feinted, a move no normal animal should know. Instead of charging directly, it veered at the last second, catching Ethan off guard. One massive tusk grazed his side, tearing through clothing and drawing a line of fire across his ribs. Pain lanced through him, but his regeneration talent immediately began closing the wound. Not fast enough for comfort, but enough to keep him in the fight. Ethan activated iron enhancement and regeneration simultaneously, feeling his mana reserves draining rapidly with multiple talents active. He had minutes at most before exhaustion would leave him vulnerable. The forest suddenly seemed too quiet. The boar charged again, this time committing fully to its attack. Ethan waited until the last possible moment, gauging distance and speed with preternatural accuracy. When he moved, it was with perfect precision. Enhanced speed carried him not away but toward the beast, sliding under its massive body as it passed overhead. His blade drove upward, finding the soft spot behind the foreleg where the hide was thinnest. The sword sank deep, piercing the heart. You have killed a mid-bronze razorback boar. The boar's momentum carried it forward several more steps before it collapsed, legs splaying as life fled its massive body. Ethan rose shakily, blood soaking his side despite his regeneration talent's efforts. The wound burned like fire, deeper than he'd initially thought. I need to get out of here. Now. He stored the body of the boar inside his storage ring before he began his transformation. His body contorted immediately as he activated his strongest transformation. Bones cracked and realigned, muscles bulged, and coarse brown fur erupted across his skin. Within seconds, a massive brown bear stood where Ethan had been. Transformation: brown bear, mid-bronze, active. The bear's superior regeneration kicked in instantly, the wound on his side knitting together much faster than the speed of his normal healing. E-rank regeneration versus his natural F+ made a noticeable difference. Ethan immediately took off towards the city. As he ran, he heard a distant howl from the ravine. They found the bodies. He had to leave the bodies of the iron-ranked boars because he didn't have space in his storage ring, nor did he have time to hide them. The bear's powerful legs carried him through the forest at surprising speed, crashing through undergrowth that would have slowed his human form. Although he wasn't able to activate his enhanced speed talent during his transformation, he was still fast due to the terrain and his powerful body. Each thundering step put distance between him and the gathering horde. More howls joined the first. Clearly, they were scattering to find who was responsible. Arriving in the city's parameters, he released the transformation, his human form returning as he collapsed against a tree trunk. His side still ached, but the wound had closed completely thanks to the bear's enhanced healing. Ethan took out the body of the boar from the storage ring. Thud! The body fell to the forest floor, sending a small wisp of wind across the fallen leaves. He knelt beside it, hands hovering over the beast's body. Despite his exhaustion, he couldn't waste this opportunity. Every attribute point mattered now. Devour, he whispered, activating his ability. Ferocious beast, razorback boar, iron enhancement talent. Devour. Rank mid-bronze. Ethan devoured the talent without hesitation. You have devoured razorback boar. You have evolved the talent. Iron enhancement, F+-E. You have gained +10 strength. Ethan's power increased dramatically. Ethan checked his status, noting the improvements. Human, Ethan Brandon. Rank, mid-bronze. Talents, enhanced speed, F+, protective shield, F, iron enhancement, E, accuracy enhancement, F+, regeneration, F+, dagger wield, F. Transformations, Shadowfang wolf, peak iron, razorback boar, mid-bronze, black beetle, mid-bronze, brown bear, mid-bronze. Level 2. Health points, 700. Mana points, 600. Strength, 85 agility, 60 intelligence, 60 vitality, 7. Free attributes, 5. Skills, basic footwork, novice 13%. Not bad. My strength has stepped into the mid-bronze range, and the razorback boar transformation has also evolved. Ethan stood, eyes fixed on the distant city walls. Infiltrating the city walls was as easy as always. A few minutes later, and he was back in the 3rd district. That's when he noticed it. Thick smoke billowing into the night sky, orange flames flickering against dark clouds. What happened there? He changed direction, drawn to the commotion despite his exhaustion. As he drew closer, dread pooled in his stomach. The smoke rose from the exact direction of the orphanage. His pace quickened, enhanced speed activating almost subconsciously. He arrived to find his fears confirmed. The orphanage engulfed in flames that reached hungrily toward the night sky. Ethan watched from the shadows as water-talented awakeners fought a losing battle against the inferno. Their faces streaked with soot, desperation evident in every movement. Where are the backups? A woman shouted, her water talent creating spheres that hissed into steam upon contact with the blaze. Why is it only 3rd district people here? The fire's too advanced. We can't contain it. The crowd stood helpless, shock written across their faces. Ethan's throat tightened. He was a transmigrator. These weren't technically his memories, his people. But something in him resonated with his predecessor's attachment to this place. Too late. They're all dead. His fists clenched at his sides. The building's structural integrity had already failed in multiple places. No one could have survived that inferno. A terrible suspicion formed in his mind. This timing, with him being hunted by Han Wei, with him defending Tiana, this wasn't an accident. Ethan took one last look at the burning building before melting back into the shadows of an alleyway. Although he had a hunch that Han Wei's people were behind this, it remained just that, a hunch. No proof, no witnesses, just the suspicious timing. If it was them, they'll make their next move soon, he calculated, moving silently through backstreets toward Lynn's restaurant. They'll want me to know it was them. Want me angry, reactive, careless. That's how hunters operated. Create a wound, then wait for the prey to leave a blood trail directly to their hiding place. It was the same way his bullies operated back in the previous world. Ethan slipped through Lynn's restaurant's back entrance, careful not to disturb the sleeping family. He needed rest and needed to recover his mana. As he settled onto the storage room couch, resting his body, his mind was not resting. After a few hours, sleep came reluctantly, memories of flames mingling with visions of the beast horde in his dreams. Before the next day could arrive, Ethan woke to urgent knocking on the storage door. His eyes snapped open instantly, his reflexes bringing him to full alertness in a heartbeat. His hand reached for the sword that he withdrew from his storage ring. Ethan, Lynn's voice came from the door, stuttering. Ethan frowned and stored his sword. Come in, he called. The door creaked open. Lynn stood there shivering, her father behind her. The old man clutched a large kitchen knife, his knuckles white around the handle. Their faces were drained of color, eyes wide with unmistakable terror. They slipped inside, closing the door with painful slowness, as if afraid the slightest sound might draw attention. What's wrong? Ethan frowned, rising to his feet. Lynn's lips trembled as she tried to form words. "See the monsters. They are here." Her father nodded grimly, the knife shaking in his grip. "The outer wall is being attacked." "What?" Her father nodded grimly, the knife shaking in his grip. "The outer wall is being attacked." "What?" It shouldn't be time yet. His mind raced. There was no sign they were ready to attack. The terrible realization hit him like a physical blow. My attack. They sensed a human found their gathering place. Cold dread pooled in his stomach. I triggered this. The distant sounds of battle filtered through the thin walls. Shouts, roars, the clash of metal against chitin. The city bells had begun ringing, their urgent peals carrying across all districts. "All right, you two stay here. I'll check what's happening." Lynn stepped forward, concern etched across her face. "You can't go out there. It's too dangerous." Her father caught her arm, gently pulling her back. He shook his head, eyes meeting Ethan's with grim understanding. "Let him go," the old man said quietly. Ethan nodded his thanks. "Barricade the door behind me. Only open it if you hear a rescue team or my voice." Without waiting for a response, he slipped out into the pre-dawn darkness. The streets had transformed into chaos. People running, guards shouting orders, the sky to the east lit by an ominous glow. Ethan activated enhanced speed, racing toward the outer wall. He climbed a building for a better vantage point, the climb effortless with his strength. What he saw froze his blood. The outer wall hadn't fallen, not yet, but hundreds of beasts swarmed its base. Razorbacks, wolves, bears, and creatures he couldn't identify from this distance. In the storage room, Lynn watched her father slide the heavy storage shelf against the door. "You can't tie him here," her father said softly. "If he wants to go, you can't stop him." Lynn nodded, a single tear tracking down her cheek. "I know." Ethan studied the chaotic battlefield from his perch, eyes narrowing as he analyzed the attack pattern. Something wasn't right. Where are the silver ranks? He wondered, scanning the beast horde again. Where are the high bronze commanders? The attackers were numerous, but weaker than expected, mostly iron ranks with low bronze leaders. Each bronze beast commanded about 5 iron ranks, moving with coordination, but lacking the devastating power he'd witnessed in the forest. This isn't the main force, he realized. This is just a probing attack. City defenders had mobilized quickly, bronze rank awakeners hurling spells from the walls while archers rained arrows on the creatures below. They were holding for the time being. Ethan's gaze shifted toward District 2, where Tiana would be. The wealthier district's walls stood taller, stronger, better defended. She would be safe there, at least from beasts. Hanwei was another matter, but even he wouldn't dare touch a research official during a monster attack. A slow smile spread across Ethan's face as opportunity revealed itself. Time to gather some cores. In the chaos, no one would notice one more fighter. No one would question a person helping defend the walls. And no one would track where those monster cores disappeared till afterwards. Ethan activated enhanced speed, blurring across rooftops toward the embattled wall. Soldiers shouted orders. Civilians fled inward, and somewhere in the distance alarm bells continued their frantic pealing. He landed atop the wall, startling 2 archers who clearly hadn't expected anyone to approach from behind. Without warning, Ethan vaulted over the battlements, plunging straight into the writhing mass of monsters below. What the hell is this guy doing? One archer gasped, bow forgotten in his shock. He's courting death. Another shouted, his face pale with horror. The defenders along the wall froze, watching the apparent suicide with morbid fascination. No human jumped voluntarily into a beast tide, not even bronze ranks. Ethan disappeared beneath a wave of claws, fangs, and chitinous limbs, his body swallowed by the chaos. "He's gone," a guard captain shouted, leaning dangerously far over the wall's edge. "I can't see him anymore. He got stomped to death." What none of them realized was that mid-fall, Ethan had activated his black beetle transformation, his body shrinking and hardening as he plummeted. He landed among the beasts as just another insect in the swarm, indistinguishable from the countless beetles already present. Need to relocate before I start the slaughter, he thought, activating protective shield around his beetle form as he scuttled between massive paws and hooves. Too suspicious if I start killing right where that suicidal human disappeared. He navigated the chaotic battlefield, the monsters around him too focused on the wall to notice one beetle moving against the tide. Reaching the eastern flank where the assault was thinner, Ethan found his opening. With a pulse of mana, he shed his beetle form, immediately transforming into a razorback boar. His body expanded explosively, tusks erupting from his elongating snout as his skin hardened into iron-enhanced hide. You have transformed. Razorback boar, mid-bronze. The monsters nearest him barely had time to register the strange transformation before Ethan charged. His tusks, glowing with activated iron enhancement, pierced the throat of a low-bronze wolf, its howl cut short as blood sprayed across the trampled earth. You have killed a low-bronze, shadow-fawn wolf. Ethan did not waste the opportunity to devour the wolf's body and grab its core in the chaos, storing it in the storage ring. +9 agility. He pivoted immediately, slamming his enhanced bulk into a cluster of iron-rank creatures, sending them flying like bowling pins. They weren't worth his time. No attribute gains from such weak enemies. His real targets were the bronze leaders. A low-bronze gorilla roared a challenge, beating its chest as it noticed the traitor among them. Ethan met his charge with his own, the collision sending shockwaves through nearby combatants. His tusks found the sweet spot beneath the ape's ribs, piercing upward into vital organs. You have killed low-bronze gorilla. +7 strength. Ethan devoured the gorilla once again, but he did not receive any talent. The reason was simple. The creature's ability, like the iron enhancement talent he already possessed, belonged to the same category. And compared to his, the gorilla's version was weaker, too weak to modify or reinforce what he already had. On the wall above, a scout with enhanced vision noticed the anomaly first. "Hey, do you see that?" He pointed frantically, grabbing his commander's arm. "One of the monsters is attacking the others." "Where?" The commander followed his gaze, jaw dropping at the sight below. Oh shit, a razorback, larger than any they'd seen before, was cutting through the beast's hide like a scythe through wheat. Not charging the wall, not following the attack pattern of other monsters. It was deliberately targeting other bronze rank commanders. "What in all hells?" The commander whispered. "Why would it?" Below, Ethan continued his rampage. A low bronze beetle reared up, acid spray preparing in its abdomen. Ethan dodged with preternatural agility, circling behind it faster than a boar should move. His tusks found the weak joint at the beetle's thorax, severing its spine in one brutal thrust. You have killed the low bronze black beetle. +7 vitality. The nearby beasts had noticed him now. The coordinated attack on the wall faltered as confusion spread through their ranks. Some turned to face this new threat, sensing the anomaly in their midst. Ethan welcomed them with iron tusks and intelligence that shouldn't exist in a razorback. 2 more bronze commanders fell before the horde began to organize against him. On the wall, defenders watched in stunned disbelief as the monster civil war unfolded. "Is it helping us?" a young guard asked, arrow knocked but target uncertain. "Don't question it," the commander ordered. "Take advantage. Target the confused ones." A rain of arrows descended on the disorganized monsters, each shaft finding vulnerable flesh as the beast's formation collapsed into chaos. Ethan charged through the heart of the swarm, striking with surgical precision at each bronze rank he encountered. Blood and ichor soaked his transformed hide, the scent of death thickening around him. A particularly massive, low-bronze wolf circled him warily, intelligence gleaming in its yellow eyes. It howled commands, rallying nearby beasts to surround the traitor. Ethan found himself encircled by 5 bronze-rank beasts, each watching him with unnerving awareness. Behind the 5 low-bronze beasts, there were several iron beasts too. This could be a problem, he thought, tusks lowered as he assessed his opponents. The wolf lunged first, its jaws aiming for Ethan's exposed flank. He pivoted, doing the attack, but the other 4 beasts attacked him at the same time. Unable to dodge all the attacks in his current form, fangs raked across his side, drawing first blood. Pain lanced through him, but he used the momentum to spin, catching another attacker with his tusks. The wolf gurgled as iron-enhanced tusks ripped through its throat, hot blood spraying across the trampled earth. You have killed low bronze Shadow Fawn Wolf. Plus 5 agility. You have evolved the talent. Enhanced speed, F plus -E. The remaining 4 bronze beasts circled him, moving with unsettling coordination. Look at that, a guard captain shouted from the wall. The boar's fighting for us. The archer beside him lowered his bow in disbelief. How is that possible? Don't question our luck. Help the boar. The captain barked. If it dies, we'll have trouble fending them off. Arrows rained down around Ethan, striking 2 of the circling beasts. Not killing blows, but enough to distract them, creating the opening he needed. Ethan charged the Shadow Fawn Wolf. The wolf tried to dodge, but it was unable to get far due to the crowd of monsters. His tusks found home beneath the wolf's jaw, driving upward into its brain. You have killed low bronze Shadow Fawn Wolf. Ethan devoured it immediately once again. Plus 5 agility. The beast collapsed, but not before it tried to land one final attack with its claws. Ethan dodged the attack with relative ease. More arrows descended from the wall, the defenders now actively supporting their mysterious monster ally. A bronze rank awakener joined the barrage, hurling fire bolts that set a charging bear's fur ablaze. Ethan used the distraction to pivot, driving his tusks into a beetle's soft underbelly. Momentum carried him forward, disemboweling the creature in one savage thrust. You have killed low bronze black beetle. You have leveled up. The remaining 2 bronze beasts, a bear and boar, hesitated, sensing the changing tide. A second later, they made their decision and they retreated into the larger horde. Seeing that the monsters had decided to retreat, he charged away from the wall, breaking through the confused monster ranks until he reached a relatively clear area. Then, away from the view of the distant defenders, he released his boar transformation. On the wall, absolute silence fell among the defenders. What was wrong with that boar? A scout whispered, voice cracking. The commander beside him couldn't even form a response. Not sure, but whatever it is, it was a blessing to us. Ethan took out the 8 low bronze cores he had taken from the bodies of the monsters he had killed. Without hesitation, he activated Devour on the first core. Plus 7 agility. The second core dissolved into pure energy that flowed into his cells. Plus 7 agility. Plus 5 strength. Core after core, his body absorbed their essence, each one strengthening him beyond what weeks of normal training could achieve. The final core's energy dissipated, and Ethan checked his status with wide eye. Human, Ethan Brandon. Rank, High Bronze. Talents, Enhanced Speed E. Protective Shield F. Iron Enhancement E. Accuracy Enhancement F+. Regeneration F+. Dagger Wield F. Transformations, Shadow Fawn Wolf, Low Bronze. Razorback Boar, Mid Bronze. Black Beetle, Mid Bronze. Brown Bear, Mid-Bronze. Level 3. Health points, 920. Mana points, 600. Strength, 100. Agility, 101. Intelligence, 60. Vitality, 92. Free attributes, 10. Skills, Basic Footwork, Novice, 13%. Wow, he whispered, flexing his fingers as new power coursed through him. That was insanely profitable. Worth more than last week's previous hunts combined. His strength and agility had crossed the threshold into high bronze territory. His vitality wasn't far behind. Even his enhanced speed talent had evolved to E rank. Only my intelligence is lagging, he thought, frowning slightly. Hard to find beasts with intelligence as their primary attribute. He rolled his shoulders, feeling the difference in every muscle fiber, every tendon. With my current strength and talents, I could handle a peak bronze human or monster, he calculated, hand on his chin. But a low silver would still be difficult. Not impossible, though. Inside the second district, morning light filtered through ornate windows as Han Wei stood triumphant, his boot pressing down on Hong Wei's face. The 16-year-old orphan lay sprawled across imported marble, his face full of bruises and cuts. The sole survivor of the orphanage fire had been questioned all night about his connection to Ethan. "So, do you understand what I said or not?" Han Wei's voice carried the cruelty of someone who had never faced consequences. Hong Wei nodded weakly, blood trickling from his split lip. "All right, good." Han Wei smiled, gesturing to the healer standing nearby. "Heal him, keep it brand new. Then take him back to the 3rd District and proceed with the plans." Feng bowed deeply, but hesitation flickered across his face. "But young master, the city has been thrown into chaos, and a monster horde might attack at any moment. I think we should delay it a little. What do you think?" Han Wei's expression darkened as he slowly turned toward his servant. In 3 measured steps, he crossed the space between them, bringing his face inches from Feng's. "Feng, are you disobeying my order?" The quiet question carried more threat than any shout. "No, I don't dare, young master. I was Jew. Just do it." "Yes, young master." Feng bowed again, deeper this time, backing away to oversee the boy's healing. Hong Wei's eyes remained downcast, but something hardened in them. Meanwhile, Ethan slipped back into the city undetected. He reached Lin's restaurant, circling to the back entrance, as usual. Knock, knock. No sound came from the restaurant. "It's Ethan," he said, realizing his mistake of not introducing himself. The storage room door opened before he could knock again. Lin stood there, eyes wide with relief and 1,000 questions. "You're alive," she whispered, scanning him for injuries. "More than alive," Ethan replied, stepping inside and closing the door behind him. "But we need to talk. Things are about to get much worse. The monsters have started their attacks. The guard were able to make them retreat, but not without significant losses." Ethan paced the small storage room. "What do you mean?" Lin's father asked, his face creasing with concern. Ethan paused, considering how much to reveal. These people had sheltered him, risked themselves for him. They deserved the truth, or at least enough of it to prepare. "That wasn't their main force," he explained. "Just the first wave, testing our defenses. The stronger ones are still waiting." Lin clutched her father's arm. "Stronger? Those monsters already killed dozens of guards. Those were mostly iron rank with a few bronze commanders." Ethan's expression darkened. "There are silver ranks gathering in the forest. 3 of them, at least. When they come with their full army." He didn't need to finish the sentence. Even those with no military experience understood what silver rank beasts could do to a city. "The 2nd and 1st districts might hold," her father murmured, "but the 3rd district wall is already damaged. We'll be the first to fall." "You should leave," Ethan said firmly. "Take what you can carry and head for the inner districts. Today." Lin shook her head stubbornly. "This restaurant is all we have. We can't just abandon it." "You can rebuild a restaurant," Ethan countered. "You can't rebuild your lives." Her father nodded slowly, the pragmatism of age overcoming sentiment. "He's right, Lin. We should prepare to leave." "What about you?" Lin asked, eyes fixed on Ethan. "Where will you go?" "I will stay in the 3rd district for now. Once you get into the 3rd district and you need help, go find this person," he said before looking for a paper and pen. "This is her address, Lin. You know her. You've seen her before. She's the girl that I ate with before. Just tell her that Ethan sent you, and she will take care of the rest. Her name is Tiana." "Be careful," Lin said softly. "There are rumors about the orphanage fire. They say it wasn't an accident." Ethan's expression didn't change, but something cold settled in his chest. "What rumors?" "Some kids saw men leaving just before the fire started. Men in dark clothes." Her father cut in with a warning glance at his daughter. "It's just talk. No proof. The kids could have seen things." But Ethan had all the proof he needed in his gut. Han Wei had escalated their personal conflict to mass murder. "I'll be careful," Ethan said, then paused. "You should be gone by nightfall. Do you have the fee for the entrance to the 2nd district?" "Yeah, we should have enough," Lin's father replied, though his eyes betrayed uncertainty. Ethan considered for a moment, then reached into his storage ring. 5 peak iron cores materialized in his palm. "Here you go. Take these." Lynn and her father's eyes widened simultaneously. It's too much, the old man stammered, staring at the small fortune in Ethan's hand. Ethan shook his head firmly. Just take it. Besides, knowing the guards, they'll take advantage of the situation and start charging more. You'll need them. It's too much, Lynn's father repeated, his weathered face conflicted. It's not. Ethan smiled, taking the old man's hand and pressing the pouch of cores into it. Just treat me to a nice meal once everything is over. Thank you. Lynn's father began to bow, the gesture of a common man to someone of higher status. Ethan immediately stopped him, gripping his shoulders. I should thank you for giving me a place to stay. Lynn watched the exchange, tears welling in her eyes. In mere days, this stranger had become someone who mattered to them, and somehow, they had come to matter to him. Be safe, she whispered. Ethan nodded. You too. Outside, District 3 was filled with chaos. Merchants hurriedly packed their valuable goods, and families gathered their belongings, all ready to migrate. Everyone knew more attacks were coming. Few understood just how bad it would be, and others dismissed the attacks. Ethan blended into the chaotic streets. He needed to see Tiana. As he walked through the crowded marketplace, a conversation from a passing couple caught his attention. That poor boy Hong Wei. He was the sole survivor from the orphanage, a woman said, clutching her husband's arm as they hurried toward the 2nd District gates. He was away when the fire happened, and when he returned, everything had already been consumed by the flames. Her husband nodded grimly. To make it worse, the monsters are now starting to attack. I wonder how he will deal with everything going on. I don't think he will hold on for long. I think he's already lost his mind, the woman replied, lowering her voice. He kept muttering beans repeatedly, just walking around the market square, saying beans, beans over and over. Ethan froze mid-step, the name striking a chord in his borrowed memories. Hong Wei, the boy from the orphanage who had followed the original Ethan everywhere, looking up to him as an older brother figure. Beans? Why does it feel familiar? Ethan muttered. Suddenly, his predecessor's memories surged forward, overtaking his consciousness with startling clarity. 8 years ago. Come on, Hong Wei. Mrs. Chun will be back any minute. Ethan gestured frantically to the small boy peering around the kitchen doorframe. At 9 years old, Hong Wei was all skinny limbs and wide eyes, his oversized clothes hanging off his frame like sails on a becalmed ship. But Mrs. Chun said no one's allowed in the kitchen between meals. Hong Wei whispered, though he inched forward despite his protest. And that's exactly why we need to hurry, Ethan replied with the confidence of a seasoned rule-breaker. I saw Cook leave a whole plate of bean cakes on the counter. They'll be gone by dinner if we don't grab some now. The orphanage had been short on supplies for weeks. The military had requisitioned most of the district's food for an expedition, leaving civilian institutions to scrape by on reduced rations. Hunger had become a constant companion to the children, especially growing boys like Ethan. Hong Wei's stomach growled audibly, making the decision for him. He scurried across the kitchen floor to where Ethan already stood beside the counter, eyeing the prize. There they are, Ethan whispered reverently. A plate of steaming bean cakes sat cooling by the window, 16 perfect rounds of sweet bean paste wrapped in rice flour dough. More importantly, they were unattended. I'll lift you up, Ethan said, interlocking his fingers to create a step for the smaller boy. You grab 4, 2 for each of us, then we run. Hong Wei nodded solemnly, accepting the mission. He stepped into Ethan's hands and was hoisted upward, his fingers just reaching the counter's edge. Almost, he strained, tongue poking out in concentration. Almost got it. His small fingers closed around one bean cake, then another. Got them, he whispered triumphantly. That's when the kitchen door swung open. Ethan Brandon. Hong Wei, what do you think you're doing? Mrs. Chin stood in the doorway, arms crossed, her normally kind face set in stern disappointment. Ethan dropped Hong Wei in surprise, though he managed to catch the smaller boy before he hit the floor. The bean cakes weren't so lucky. They tumbled across the clean kitchen tiles. We were just... Ethan began, mind racing for a plausible excuse. Stealing food when there are 26 other hungry children in this orphanage. Mrs. Chen finished for him, her voice carrying a rare edge. Hongwei burst into tears. "We're sorry, Mrs. Chun. We were so hungry." Mrs. Chin's expression softened slightly, but remained firm. "Come with me, both of you." She led them to her small office, the silence heavy with impending consequences. Once inside, she motioned for them to sit in the worn chairs facing her desk. "Do you know why what you did was wrong?" she asked, her voice gentler now. Ethan stared at his shoes. "Because stealing is wrong." "Yes, but there's more," Mrs. Chin said. "They were for Old Man Lin's birthday celebration tonight. He donates what little he can to us every month from his pension." Shame burned Ethan's cheeks. Old Man Lin was a kind, elderly man who often visited the orphanage to tell stories. Despite having hardly anything himself, he always brought small gifts for the children. But also, Mrs. Chun continued, a strange glint appearing in her eye, those particular bean cakes were never meant to be eaten. Ethan looked up in confusion. "They were a trap," she explained, allowing herself a small smile. "Cook and I have been trying to catch our kitchen thief for weeks. We suspected either you, Jian, or Lu. Those bean cakes were filled with a special pepper sauce that would have turned your mouth's fire red for hours." Hong Wei's eyes widened in horror. "Pea pepper sauce? In bean cakes?" "Indeed," Mrs. Chun said, finally letting her amusement show. "In fact, I should thank you for saving me the trouble of figuring out who's been sneaking extra food. You've confessed without taking a single bite." Ethan couldn't help but laugh at their near escape from pepper sauce doom, and after a moment, Hong Wei joined in, tears forgotten. Mrs. Chin's expression became serious again. "However, this doesn't excuse the stealing. You'll both help Cook clean the kitchen for the next week. And Ethan, as the older one who should know better, you'll also help serve at tonight's celebration." "Yes, Mrs. Chun," they chorused. As they turned to leave, she called after them. "And boys, if you're hungry, just ask. We don't have much, but what we have, we share. That's what family does." Later that evening, after serving Old Man Lin's birthday meal, Ethan and Hong Wei each received a proper, pepper-free bean cake as a reward for their honest work. Seated side by side on the orphanage's back steps, they savored each bite under the stars. "Ethan," Hong Wei asked, his small face serious in the moonlight. "Yeah. Will you teach me to be smart like you, so I don't get caught next time?" Ethan laughed, ruffling the boy's hair. "I'll teach you something better, how not to need to steal in the first place." "Ow!" "By being strong enough to protect what's yours and kind enough to share it with others who need it." Hong Wei nodded as if this was the most profound wisdom he'd ever heard. "I want to be just like you when I grow up." Tiana, who was sitting with them stargazing, smiled. From that day forward, Hong Wei followed Ethan everywhere, soaking up every lesson, every skill, every story. And whenever they found themselves in trouble, beans became their code word, a reminder of traps, consequences, and the importance of watching out for each other. The memory faded, leaving Ethan standing in a crowded street, his heart pounding with realization. Hong Wei was alive, the only survivor of the orphanage fire. And beans wasn't random delirium from trauma. It was a message specifically for him, a warning about a trap. Hong Wei has him, Ethan realized, cold certainty settling in his gut. He's using Hong Wei as bait to draw me out. The pieces clicked into place with terrible clarity. Hong Wei had burned the orphanage, somehow spared Hong Wei, and was now using the boy to set a trap for Ethan. And Hong Wei, brave even in captivity, had managed to send a warning with their childhood code word. Ethan's hands clenched at his sides. His suspicion was finally solidified without any doubt. Hong Wei had killed dozens of kids for his petty revenge. I will have him pay for every life lost in those flames. He stalked through the crowded streets of District 3, his eyes scanning every alley and corner for Hong Wei. The district was a chaotic mess of refugees heading inward, soldiers moving outward, and civilians trying to secure their homes against both human looters and monster attacks. After nearly an hour of searching, Ethan finally spotted him. A thin figure slumped against a wall in a less trafficked side street. Hong Wei sat with his eyes closed, chest rising and falling in shallow breaths. Bruises decorated his face like macabre artwork. Is he sleeping? Ethan's gaze swept the area, searching for Han Wei's subordinates. His senses detected nothing unusual, but the crowded district made it impossible to be certain. There are too many people here. It's difficult to tell, he thought, weighing his options. Either way, since they're setting a trap for me, I'll gladly walk into it. With deliberate motions, Ethan dropped his hood and approached Han Wei. The boy didn't stir until Ethan gently shook his shoulder. Han Wei's eyes fluttered open, then widened in shock upon recognizing Ethan. His gaze darted frantically around the busy street. Why are you? Before he could finish, 10 figures materialized from the crowd, forming a perfect circle around Ethan and Han Wei. They moved with the synchronized precision of trained killers. Everyone leave. Now, the apparent leader barked, flames erupting around his outstretched hand. Civilians scattered like startled birds, screams punctuating their hasty retreat. Within seconds, the street emptied, leaving only Ethan, Han Wei, and their ambushers. Ethan positioned himself in front of Han Wei, scanning the 10 attackers with cold eyes. The leader was a mid-bronze rank with an E-rank fire talent. The others were all in the low-bronze rank, each with E-rank talents of various types. Han Wei, Ethan said quietly, when I move, run toward the main street. You can't fight them all, the boy whispered, his voice trembling. The leader stepped forward, flames dancing between his fingers. Han Wei sends his regards, you rat. He wanted you to know that the orphanage was just the beginning. Funny, Ethan replied, a dangerous smile spreading across his face. I was about to deliver a similar message to him. The leader's brow furrowed, confusion replacing his smug confidence. You don't seem worried for someone about to die. That's because I'm not the one who's going to die today. Ethan activated iron enhancement, a metallic sheen spreading across his skin as his body hardened to weapon-grade density. Simultaneously, enhanced speed coursed through his muscles, the world around him seeming to slow as his perception accelerated. The 10 men tensed, suddenly uncertain. This wasn't the reaction they'd expected from a cornered runaway. They knew that he wasn't weak, but his power shouldn't be anywhere near enough to defeat the 10 of them. Kill him, the leader shouted, hurling a fireball directly at Ethan's face. Ethan crossed both of his arms that had become iron and blocked the attack whilst charging forward. With high bronze strength and E-rank speed, he became a blur of lethal precision. His first strike caved in the nearest attacker's chest, his arm punching through the man's defensive talent like paper. The second attacker managed to activate a shield talent, but Ethan's follow-up kick shattered it completely, along with the man's ribs. You have killed low bronze. You have killed low bronze. Run, he shouted to Han Wei, who finally broke from his shock paralysis and bolted toward the main street. 3 attackers moved to intercept the boy. You are not going anywhere. Ethan's speed let him reach them first, Han Wei's sword flashing in a deadly arc that opened their throats and severed their tendons. You have killed low bronze. You have killed low bronze. In a span of a minute, Ethan had already killed 4 of the attackers without any mercy. The remaining 6, including the leader, watched in horror as their ambush collapsed around them. The leader gritted his teeth as Han Wei broke free, fleeing toward the main street. Fire strike, he roared, hurling a blazing sphere toward the boy's back. Ethan moved with supernatural speed, intercepting the fireball with his iron-reinforced palm. The flames sputtered and died against his hardened skin, not even leaving a mark. Impossible, one of the assassins whispered. The leader's eyes widened. Damn it, he's at least high bronze. His speed might have reached the peak of the rank. We can't beat him, another blurted, backpedaling. We should run. Run? But young Master Han. Words died in his throat as Ethan closed the distance in a blur of motion. Han Wei's sword flashed once, plunging through the man's chest, coming out of the other side. The assassin's eyes bulged in shock. Blood bubbled from his lips as he stared down at the blade protruding from his sternum, uncomprehending. Thud! His body hit the floor. Anyone else want to mention Han Wei? Ethan asked, his voice eerily calm as he cleaned his blade with a single slash. Wish. The remaining 5 backed away in unison, formation forgotten in their panic. This isn't just some scout, the leader hissed to his men. Spread out. Use your combined attacks. We can't run. He will kill us one by one. They obeyed, circling Ethan with desperate coordination. 2 water talents moved to flanking positions. Now, the leader shouted. 5 talents activated simultaneously. Water blades sliced from opposite sides, including the same fire strike, but a large scale coming from the leader. The attack came with perfect coordination from inescapable angles. The kind of combination that should have shredded even a high bronze target. We got him! One of the attackers laughed maniacally, unable to comprehend that they had beaten a high bronze awakener. We got him! A roaring inferno engulfed the target from the front. The collision of opposing elements created a deafening explosion and a cloud of billowing steam. Ethan's protective shield flared briefly, just long enough to weather the initial barrage. Then enhanced speed activated, and he simply vanished. The area where he had stood became an elemental battlefield, water hissing against fire. Steam obscured everything, a miniature storm contained within the narrow street. I can't even see his shadow. He evaporated. Ha ha! One assassin laughed nervously, peering into the churning mist. His voice carried a brittle edge, relieved that the monster who killed his teammates was dead. The leader's eyes darted frantically, scanning the battlefield. Keep your guard, you. A sound cut through the chaos, the unmistakable whisper of a blade displacing air. Thud! The leader's sentence ended abruptly as a head separated from someone's shoulders, expression still frozen in relief. The severed head hit the cobblestones with a wet sound, rolling to a stop at the feet of his stunned teammates. Blood fountained from a neck stump for 1 heartbeat, 2, before the body toppled forward. Silence fell, broken only by the soft hiss of steam. As one, the remaining assassins turned toward the source of the sound. The blood fountain parted like a theater curtain to reveal Ethan standing motionless, sword extended in the finishing position of a perfect strike. Blood dripped steadily from the blade, each crimson drop striking the street with rhythm. His eyes held no emotion, not anger, not satisfaction, not even exertion. Impossible, whispered one of the water talents, his confidence evaporating faster than the mist around them. No low bronze could. I'm not low bronze, Ethan interrupted, his voice carrying easily despite its softness. Not anymore. One assassin broke, turning to flee. Ethan didn't even move. He simply pulled out his bow, knocked an arrow, and activated accuracy enhancement in one fluid motion. Whoosh! The arrow cut through the air with perfect precision. The fleeing assassin glanced back to check if Ethan was pursuing him. Relief flashed across his face when he saw Ethan standing still in the distance. A smile began to form on his lips, the brief, desperate hope of someone who thinks they might survive after all. Then he saw the arrow. It was already there, seemingly suspended in the air, directly in front of his face, its trajectory perfectly calculated to intercept his escape path. His eyes had just enough time to widen in realization. SBLRTCH. The assassin's head exploded like a watermelon, bone fragments and brain matter spattering the nearby wall. His body continued running for 2 more steps before collapsing in a heap. The remaining assassins froze, weapons half raised in suddenly trembling hands. We surrender, their leader immediately shouted, dropping his weapon and raising his hands high. We surrender. The others quickly followed suit, weapons clattering against cobblestones as terror overtook them. Ethan studied them dispassionately, weighing his options. On your knees, he ordered, his voice cold. Face the wall. If any of you moves, you're dead. They complied instantly, scrambling to press their foreheads against the rough stone wall, hands behind their heads. Ethan approached slowly, sword hanging casually at his side. His footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. You think I'm going to let you off? Dream on. In one fluid motion too fast for human eyes to track, His blade swept horizontally through the air. 5 heads separated from bodies simultaneously, blood fontaining in perfect arcs as the corpses slumped forward against the wall. All except the leader, who remained frozen, eyes wide as his subordinates' bodies twitched in death beside him. "Calm down," Ethan said, cleaning his blade methodically. "I didn't kill you for a reason. I have a few questions for you." The leader nodded frantically, sweat pouring down his face. "Anything. I'll tell you anything. Will you let me go afterward?" he added, voice barely above a whisper. Ethan nodded once. "I will." Relief washed over the man's features. Thank you. Where is General Han?" Ethan interrupted. "General Han?" The leader swallowed hard. "He's been absent from the mansion recently. The city leader put him in charge of defending the north side of the city against the beast tide, just like the other generals." Ethan's senses detected no fluctuation in heartbeat or breathing to indicate a lie. He nodded slowly. "In Hanwei, where would he be right now?" "The summer pavilion in 2nd District, as I said before. He's waiting for us to bring you there. It's a trap, but you already know that." "Lead me there," Ethan commanded, gesturing with his sword. "If you do anything suspicious, your head will roll like theirs. Don't ruin your only chance." "Yes." The man scrambled to his feet, careful to make no sudden movements. "I'll take you the safe way, through service alleys. No guards." Hong Wei stepped forward from his hiding place. "I'm coming too." "You are still here?" "Forget it." "No, you're not coming," Ethan replied firmly. "Too dangerous." "But I can." "No buts." "Do you know Lin's restaurant?" Hong Wei nodded. "Yes, I know it." "Good. Take these keys and hide inside the basement. Do not come out until I come to you." "Understood." Hong Wei hesitated, but seeing his older brother's face, he nodded. "All right, brother." Ethan's face softened slightly. He obviously wasn't his real brother, but the little kid treated him like one. "Good." Hong Wei headed toward Lin's restaurant, glancing back once before disappearing around the corner. The street fell silent, but for the leader's panicked breathing. Ethan scanned the area, finding it suspiciously deserted. "By the way, why are the military not coming at all?" he asked. The leader swallowed hard. "We told them we had orders, so they don't get in the way." "I see." Ethan nodded, approaching the nearest corpse. He knelt beside the body, placing his palm against the still warm forehead. The leader watched with growing unease. To the leader, it looked like some bizarre ritual, touching up corpses after death. He didn't dare utter a word, terrified he might be touched after his own death too. Ethan's status vision activated, revealing the corpse's information. Human, Jason Mart, rank, low bronze, water talent, E- grade skills, water shield, novice. Without hesitation, Ethan activated Devour. "You have devoured Jason Mart. You have gained the F rank talent, water, +4 vitality." Ethan moved from corpse to corpse, checking each one's talents. Most weren't worth devouring, talents he already possessed or inferior versions that would offer no improvement. He selected one more with E-rank water talent, absorbing it to strengthen his newly acquired ability. The third worthy candidate had an E-rank wind talent, adding another element to his growing talents. After the final absorption, Ethan paused, familiarizing himself with the rush of new power flowing through his system. His updated status flashed before his mind's eye. Human, Ethan Brandon. Rank, high bronze. Talents, enhanced speed E. Protective shield F. Iron enhancement E. Accuracy enhancement F+. Regeneration F+. Dagger wield F. Water F. Wind F. Transformations, Shadow Fang Wolf, Peak Iron, Razorback Boar, mid-bronze, Black Beetle, mid-bronze, Brown Bear, mid-bronze. Level 3. Health points, 980. Mana points, 700. Strength, 110 Agility, 111 Intelligence, 70 Vitality, 98. Free attributes, 10 Skills. Basic Footwork, Novice, 13%. His attributes had increased by a total of 36 points. Intelligence up by 10, Vitality by 6, and both Strength and Agility by 10 each. 2 new elemental talents added to his arsenal. Not bad for a few minutes' work. Ethan rose. He gestured toward the alley with his sword. Now lead me to Hanwei. The leader nodded frantically, eager to be away from the touched corpses that had been his comrades minutes earlier. He scurried ahead, leading Ethan through a maze of back alleys toward District 2. As they moved, Ethan tested his new water talent, drawing moisture from the air into a small floating sphere above his palm. "How much further?" he asked. 10 minutes, the leader replied, his voice trembling. "It's just past the district gate." Ethan nodded, already planning Han Wei's execution. With these new talents that he possessed, he could make it especially educational. What is the highest rank? High Bronze. He is the leader of all the guards, including team leaders like myself. The leader swallowed hard, keeping his eyes fixed ahead to avoid looking at Ethan. 20. Handpicked by General Han himself. But after 9 had died, and considering that I'm with you, he hesitated. There are only 10 left. What's the highest rank? Ethan asked, casually rolling a small sphere of water between his fingers, testing his new talent. High Bronze. He had just advanced yesterday, the leader replied, eyeing the water manipulation nervously. He's the leader of all the guards, including team leaders like me. Foam is his name. Just how many talents does he have? The leader thought nervously. Ethan absorbed the new information and calculated the odds of him winning. 10 guards plus Han Wei, with 1 High Bronze among them. I would lose if I were to fight them by myself at the same time. But why would I do that? I will pick them slowly, one by one. And Han Wei himself? He's still a mid-bronze, correct? Yes. They turned down a narrow alley that ran alongside the district wall. The sounds of the chaotic 3rd District faded behind them, replaced by the controlled bustle of District 2 ahead. How do we get past the checkpoint without raising any suspicion? Ethan asked as the district gate came into view. The leader reached into his robe, producing a small metal token embossed with the Han family crest. The guards recognized Han family servants. With this, they'll let us both through without questions. Ethan nodded. Good. And if anyone asks why you're covered in blood? Monster attack. We fought off beasts that breached the 3rd District wall. You're learning, Ethan said with cold approval. Maybe you'll live through this after all. They approached the district gate, where a line of refugees pleaded with stone-faced guards for entry. The chaos of the monster attack had everyone on edge, with 2nd District residents demanding stricter security. The leader confidently approached a side entrance, flashing his token. The guard nodded, barely glancing at either of them before waving them through. The contrast was immediate and stark. While the 3rd District descended into panic over the monster attack, the 2nd District maintained an illusion of normalcy. Shops remained open. Wealthy residents strolled the clean streets. Guards stood at regular intervals. It was the difference between night and day. The summer pavilion is just ahead, the leader said, pointing to a walled compound rising above surrounding buildings. Han Wei will be in the central structure, and the others? Patrolling the perimeter, or inside. Ethan nodded, formulating his approach. Is there a service entrance? Yes, on the east side, used by kitchen staff and servants. Perfect. Ethan gestured for the leader to continue. Arriving at the service entrance, there was only one guard there. Seeing Stephen, he walked up to him. Where is Dash? Before he could finish, Ethan had already killed him. Get rid of his body. Stephen nodded, using his fire talent to turn the body into ashes. They slipped through the service entrance into a dimly lit corridor. Servant quarters and storerooms lined both sides. The leader turned, opening his mouth to speak. Up ahead is Dash. Ethan's blade whispered through the air, cleaving through the man's neck with surgical precision. The head tumbled from shoulders before the leader even registered betrayal. I let him go to hell. Ethan crouched beside the still twitching body, placing his palm against the forehead. The fire talent was too valuable to waste. Human, Stephen Joe. Rank, mid-bronze. Fire talent, E-gray. Skills, Fire Strike Novice. Devour. You have gained the F+ talent. Fire, +3 agility. He extended his hand, concentrating on the essence of flame. A ball of fire materialized above his palm, orange-red and pulsing with restrained energy. He directed it toward the headless corpse. The flames eagerly consumed cloth and flesh, but burned too slowly for his taste. Not strong enough. With a thought, he activated his wind talent, directing currents to feed the flames. The effect was immediate. Fire intensified, consuming the body at triple the speed it had before. Within minutes, only ash remained. Another flick of his wrist sent wind, scattering the evidence across the corridor floor, indistinguishable from dust. Ethan continued deeper into the pavilion, moving with the silent grace of a predator. 3 elemental talents now complemented his physical enhancements: fire for offense, whilst water and wind were versatile. The corridor opened into a central courtyard, impeccably maintained despite the city's crisis. Cherry trees lined a stone path leading to the main building, an elegant structure with upturned eaves and paper lanterns swaying in the breeze. Ethan's senses detected movement up ahead. Ethan noticed 2 guards patrolling the eastern perimeter and another pair by the main entrance. As he walked through the servants' corridors casually, a middle-aged man in servant's attire rounded the corner, carrying folded linens. The servant stopped, his eyebrows rising slightly at the sight of Ethan. "Excuse me, sir," he said politely, no suspicion in his voice. "This is the workers' area." The absolute security of General Han's compound had made him complacent. The idea of an intruder penetrating this deep was so inconceivable that the servant assumed Ethan belonged here. Ethan adjusted his posture and expression to one of arrogance, adopting the entitled stance of Han family associates. "I went to the bathroom and lost my way." "Ah, I see." The servant nodded, accepting the explanation without question. Ethan saw an opportunity. "Take me to Han Wei. I still have important matters to discuss with him." "Of course, sir." The servant adjusted the linens in his arms. "Do you know where the meeting was being held? The waiting room, living room, or conference room?" "His headquarters," Ethan replied smoothly. The servant's eyebrow twitched in momentary confusion, but questioning his superior's word wasn't his place. "All right, sir," he said with a slight bow. "Could you please follow me?" "Go ahead." Ethan gestured, keeping a casual distance behind the servant. They moved through the compound, passing displays of wealth that contrasted sharply with the orphanage's conditions. In fact, with anyone's condition in the 3rd District, jade sculptures, and much more. Young Master Han typically conducts business in his private study this time of day, the servant explained, stopping before an ornate door guarded by 2 men. "Shall I announce you?" Ethan smiled. "No need." "Who's this?" the taller one asked the servant. "A guest for young Master Han," the servant replied. He was separated from his group. The guards exchanged glances, suspicion dawning in their eyes. "We weren't informed of any visitors today." Ethan sighed theatrically. "Must we do this every time? Han Wei specifically requested my presence after the incident in District 3. The guards hesitated, unsure whether to risk offending a potential associate of their master. "Your name, sir?" the shorter guard asked. "Ethan Brandon," he replied with a cold smile. "The one you're looking for." Recognition flashed across their faces, followed immediately by alarm. Their hands immediately darted to their weapon on their side. "Seize him," the taller guard shouted. It was too late. Ethan's enhanced speed activated. The world slowed to a crawl as he closed the distance before they could draw their blades. His hands crushed their throats simultaneously, cutting off both sound and breath. They collapsed, hands clawing uselessly at crushed windpipes. The servant stood frozen in horror, linens forgotten at his feet. "Sorry about that," Ethan said casually. "Wrong place, wrong time." A quick strike rendered the man unconscious rather than dead. He wasn't part of this conflict, just an unfortunate bystander. +2 strength, +3 agility. Before Ethan could reach for the handle, the door flew open. "Why is there so much noise?" Han Wei shouted, stepping through the doorway. The arrogant young master froze mid-step, his face transforming from irritation to disbelief as he recognized the figure standing before him. Human, Han Wei. Rank, mid-bronze. Mental enhancement talent, E. Skills, basic footwork, novice, 2%. Basic breathing technique, novice, 5%. Basic swordsman stance. Novice, 2%. Hello. Ethan smiled, the expression never reaching his eyes as he stepped forward. Han Wei stumbled backward, colliding with a side table. A priceless vase crashed to the floor, the sound echoing in the sudden silence. "Guards," he shouted, voice cracking. "Guards." Ethan's smile widened. "I'm afraid they're indisposed at the moment." Han Wei's eyes darted frantically past Ethan, spotting the two motionless bodies of his guards. His hand flew to the sword at his waist, a beautiful, useless thing that had never tasted real combat. "Oh, you want to give me another sword? I will be really thankful. The last one was great." "Stay back," he warned, drawing the blade with trembling hands. "Do you know who I am? Do you know what my father will do to you?" Ethan tilted his head, studying the young master like a curious predator. "I know exactly who you are, Han Wei, son of General Han, heir to the Han family fortune." His voice hardened. "Murderer of 26 orphaned children." Han Wei's face paled, but his chin jutted defiantly. "I don't know what you're talking about. And even if I did, you can't prove anything." "I'm not here to prove anything," Ethan replied, taking another step forward. "Proving is for the weak here." With blinding speed, he closed the distance between them. Han Wei slashed wildly with his sword. It was a clumsy, panic strike that Ethan easily caught between his iron-enhanced fingers. "Is this the mighty Han Wei?" Ethan asked, snapping the blade with a casual twist of his wrist. "The terror of District 3? The man who bullies orphans and burns buildings full of sleeping children?" Han Wei's face contorted with rage and fear. "You're nothing. A District 3 scout. My father will have your entire family flayed alive." Ethan laughed, the sound devoid of humor. "I have no family, Han Wei. You made sure of that when you burned the orphanage." A hesitant sneer formed on his lips, bravado replacing fear. "Those street rats? Is that why you've been causing me so much trouble? I will give you as many star coins as you want." Quick as a striking serpent, Ethan's hand shot out, closing around Han Wei's throat. He lifted the young master off his feet, watching his legs kick uselessly in the air. "Those street rats had names," Ethan said, his voice deceptively gentle. "Besides, do you think money can buy you everything? It certainly won't buy your life." He slammed Han Wei against the wall, hard enough to crack the expensive plaster, but not enough to render him unconscious. 26 people, Han Wei. 26 lives extinguished because of your wounded pride." Han Wei clawed at Ethan's iron grip, face purpling as he struggled for air. Ethan loosened his hold just enough to allow shallow breaths. Please," Han Wei gasped. "I'll give you anything. Position. Power." "My father." "Your father isn't here," Ethan interrupted. "It's just you and me." He dragged Han Wei across the room, throwing him into his own chair casually. Ethan used his newly acquired water talent to form liquid restraints around Han Wei's wrists and ankles, binding him to the chair. "What are you doing?" Han Wei's voice rose in pitch, real terror replacing his earlier arrogance. "What is this?" "This?" Ethan gestured to the water bonds. "Just a little trick I picked up recently. You see, I've changed since we last met, Han Wei. Evolved, you might say." He paced slowly in front of the chair, letting the young master absorb his predicament. "Do you know what it feels like to burn alive, Han Wei? To wake up surrounded by flames, choking on smoke, hearing the screams of children as they die around you." Han Wei's eyes widened. "I didn't. It wasn't. They weren't supposed to be there." Ethan stopped pacing. "What did you just say?" Realizing his mistake, Han Wei tried to backtrack. "Nothing. I didn't say anything." Ethan leaned in close, his voice a whisper. "You just admitted it, Han Wei. The fire was deliberate. But they weren't supposed to be there." "Who wasn't?" "Explain." "It was just supposed to be you." Han Wei blurted, desperation loosening his tongue. "Feng said you'd be alone. The scout quarters were empty, so we thought. Ha ha ha. I was just joking with you. Do you really think that I don't know that you'd done it deliberately? You even used Han Wei as bait. How does it feel to lose hope of actually convincing me and staying alive?" Ethan said, as he saw the expression of Han Wei twist and turn. Han Wei's silence was confirmation enough. 26 lives? Ethan repeated, straightening. For what? Because I helped a girl you were harassing? Because your pride couldn't handle being challenged by someone from District 3? He called upon his fire talent, a small flame dancing across his fingertips. Han Wei's eyes fixed on it, terror evident in every line of his face. No, please, he whimpered. I'll confess. I'll turn myself in. I'll pay reparations to whoever you want. There's no one left to pay reparations to, Ethan said calmly. Except Han Wei, and he certainly wouldn't want anything but your life. That's the reparation I want. We want. He brought the flame closer to Han Wei's face, watching him flinch away. You know what's interesting about fire, Han Wei? In the right hands, it can be controlled with incredible precision. I could burn just your eyelids, for instance, or the insides of your nostrils. I could make it last for hours. Tears streamed down Han Wei's face. Please, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for them to die. But they did die, Ethan replied, voice soft. And sorry doesn't bring them back. He extinguished the flame, watching relief wash over Han Wei's features. But I'm not like you, Ethan continued. I don't torture the helpless. I don't burn children in their beds. Hope flickered in Han Wei's eyes. You're letting me go? No, I'm giving you a clean death. More than you deserve, but I do it for Mrs. Chun, not for you. She taught us mercy, even toward those who don't deserve it. Han Wei began to struggle against his bonds in earnest now, desperation giving him strength. Wait, my father won't let this stand. He'll hunt you to the ends of the earth. Ethan smiled. Your father is busy with the monster horde at the northern wall. By the time he learns of your death, I will have become a different person. Just pray that your father accepts your demise. Otherwise, he might join you soon. Han Wei's face twisted with rage and terror. My father will avenge me. He'll burn all of District 3 to the ground. Ethan didn't waste time with more words. Han Wei had said enough. In one fluid motion, he drew his sword and slashed horizontally across the young master's throat. The blade parted flesh with minimal resistance. Blood erupted from the severed arteries, spraying in a crimson arc that would have drenched Ethan if not for his protective shield activating at the perfect moment. Han Wei's eyes bulged. He tried to move his cuffed hands to his throat in a futile attempt to stop the bleeding, but he was unable to. Gurgling sounds replaced his threats as he struggled against the water bonds, his expensive robes quickly soaking through with red. Ethan watched dispassionately as life drained from his enemy's eyes. After a minute of weakening struggles, Han Wei's body slumped in the chair, eyes staring sightlessly at the ceiling. The water bonds dissipated, splashing to the floor around the corpse. Ethan placed his palm against the dead man's forehead, still warm with fading life. Devour. Power flowed into him, Han Wei's talent being consumed and integrated into Ethan. You have gained the talent. Mental enhancement, F. Plus 4 intelligence. What a waste, he thought as his gaze swept the room, looking for valuables. Ethan began emptying the room of valuables. Jade ornaments, gold figurines. One by one, they disappeared into his storage ring. When the ring approached capacity, he frowned. Still a few more pieces worth taking. His eyes landed on Han Wei's corpse, specifically the ring on his right index finger. A storage ring. Ethan removed it easily from the cooling flesh. With Han Wei dead, the ring's protections fell away, allowing him immediate access to its contents. What he found inside surprised him. Dozens of monster cores, ranging from peak iron to high bronze, filled most of the space. Multiple tubes of some kind of oil took up the rest. Is that baby oil? Why does he have so many? Ethan wondered, before discarding the tubes to make room for the remaining valuables from the room. As he placed the last jade figurine into the ring, a voice thundered from the doorway. You dare! Ethan spun to face the newcomer. It was a broad-shouldered man, his face contorted with rage and shock. Human, foam, rank, high bronze, water talent. Skills, basic footwork, apprentice, basic water strike, novice. The high bronze awakener that Stephen had told him about. Foam! The guard captain's gaze moved from Han Wei's blood-soaked corpse to Ethan. His eyes widened as his worst fear came to fruition. Han Wei is dead. Killing intent radiated from him like heat. You moron! What have you done? Han Wei is dead. You moron! What have you done? Killing intent radiated from him like heat from a forge. Ethan casually shrugged his shoulders, appearing utterly unconcerned. I've delivered justice. 26 lives for one seems like a fair exchange. Feng's back started sweating. With Han Wei dead, General Han would execute everyone in the summer pavilion. No excuses, no mercy. You bastard. Do you know what you've done? His voice cracked with desperation. You just signed your death sentence. Ethan smiled, stretching his neck as if preparing for light exercise rather than battle. Seems like everyone keeps telling me that today. Yet here I stand. Feng's composure cracked. With a guttural roar, he thrust both hands forward, water materializing from thin air to form razor-sharp blades that sliced toward Ethan from multiple angles. Ethan didn't even bother dodging. His protective shield flared briefly. The shield took a lot of damage, but eventually broke under the pressure. Ethan then swung his sword to disperse the water blades. My turn, he said, flicking his wrist casually. Fire erupted from his fingertips. Not a clumsy ball, but a concentrated jet that pierced through Feng's hastily erected water barrier. The guard captain barely twisted aside, the flames scorching his shoulder instead of his chest. Fire talent. Feng gasped, eyes widening. Feng attacked again, this time summoning a tsunami-like wave that filled the entire room. Water crashed toward Ethan with enough force to shatter bone. Ethan activated enhanced speed, becoming a blur as he darted straight through the wave. His iron-enhanced fist connected with Feng's sternum before the guard captain even registered his movement. The blow sent Feng crashing through the paper wall behind him, landing in a crumpled heap in the adjacent room. Ow! Feng coughed, blood speckling his lips as he struggled to his feet. Your speed, your strength. Ethan strolled through the hole in the wall, hands clasped behind his back like a teacher disappointed with a struggling student. Feng spat blood, gathering water around his fists to form liquid blades. I'll kill you, he charged, water blades slashing in complex patterns designed to cut from multiple angles simultaneously. It was the water strike skill that he had cultivated till the novice proficiency, and with it, he had killed dozens of opponents before. Ethan sighed, activating 3 talents at once. Enhanced speed let him weave between slashes that should have been unavoidable. Iron enhancement hardened his skin against the few cuts that connected. Fire talent superheated the air around him, evaporating Feng's water weapons on contact. The guard captain stumbled backwards, true fear replacing anger in his eyes. Just how many talents do you have? He shouted, desperation evident in every syllable. You? What are you? Ethan tilted his head, a predatory smile spreading across his face. Me? I'm me. He closed the distance in a heartbeat, iron-enhanced hand closing around Feng's throat. Feng clawed desperately at the unbreakable grip, feeling his windpipe compress under relentless pressure. W8, he gasped, eyes bulging with panic. General Han will come for you. He wheezed through the constriction. He had reached the low silver rank. Despite your multiple talents and strength, you won't be able to survive. Desperation gave his words a frantic edge. You need teammates, someone who can help you. I will do that. Ethan scoffed, his expression one of amused contempt. Teammates? With you. Feng immediately realized his mistake. And no, I meant subordinate. A cold smirk spread across Ethan's face. You are not fit. His hand tightened with precise, mechanical force. The sound of cartilage and bone giving way echoed in the ruined room, a wet crunch that ended Feng's desperate bargaining. The guard captain's eyes bulged, hands clawing at his crushed windpipe as he collapsed to his knees. No air could pass through the mangled flesh. Ethan watched dispassionately as Feng's existence ceased altogether. The high bronze awakener slumped to the floor, eyes still open in his final desperate plea. Human, Feng, rank, high bronze, water talent, skills, basic footwork, apprentice, basic water strike, novice. Ethan knelt beside the corpse, placing his palm against Feng's still warm forehead. Devour. Power flowed into him. He felt his water talent strengthen, though not enough to evolve to the next rank. Plus 7 vitality. His agility had improved significantly from the day's harvests, pushing him closer to the threshold for peak bronze. Human, Ethan Brandon. Rank, high bronze. Talents, enhanced speed, protective shield, F. Iron enhancement, E. Accuracy enhancement, F+. Regeneration, F+. Dagger wield, F. Water, F. Wind, F. Fire, F+. Mental enhancement, F. Transformations, Shadow Fawn Wolf, Peak Iron, Razorback Boar, mid-bronze, Black Beetle, mid-bronze, Brown Bear, mid-bronze. Level 3. Health points, 1050. Mana points, 740. Strength, 113 agility, 116 intelligence, 74 vitality, 105. Free attributes, 10. Skills, basic footwork, novice 15%. A few minutes later, Ethan walked calmly from the burning summer pavilion. Behind him, flames licked at the walls and furniture, consuming decades of Han family wealth and privilege. Inside the pavilion, panic spread like the fire itself. "There's fire. Hurry up, we need to stop it," a guard shouted, frantically organizing a bucket line. "Where's Captain Foam? Where are the water mages?" The question went unanswered as servants and guards struggled in vain against the supernaturally spreading flames. Ethan moved through the second district. The research district lay just ahead, Tiana's apartment building visible in the afternoon light. Before he could reach the entrance, movement caught his enhanced senses. 2 figures sitting in a nearby tea house suddenly straightened, their attention fixing on him as if recognizing him. Ethan didn't slow or attempt concealment. After the day's events, he welcomed confrontation. Han Wei had clearly stationed watchers near Tiana's residence in case he appeared. The 2 men exchanged hurried whispers. One casually reached into his robe, extracting a small crystal. Ethan smiled at the obvious act of informing. They were clearly amateurs that the Han had hired to watch the area. His enhanced speed talent activated, the world slowing around him as he crossed the distance in 2 heartbeats. One moment he stood 30 paces away. The next he materialized directly in front of their table, scattering the teacups on the table. Both men recoiled, their eyes widening in terror at his sudden appearance. "Hi, gentlemen," Ethan said pleasantly, as if they were old friends meeting for tea. "It seems like you share a common ancestor with rats? Because you have a few matching habits." "Aye," the one with the crystal stammered, his eyes showing fear. "I am—" Ethan interrupted, waving dismissively. "Irrelevant. Now, give me the crystal." The men exchanged frightened glances before the holder extended his trembling hand, offering the crystal. Ethan's status vision identified them as mere mid-iron rank, hardly worth the effort of killing. With casual disdain, he took the crystal and crushed it between his fingers, turning it into powder. Before either man could speak, Ethan's hands moved with blinding speed. Twin slaps connected with their faces, the sound like thunderclaps in the quiet street. Both men crashed to the ground, blood and teeth spraying from their mouths. Ethan held back on those slaps, just strong enough to shatter half their teeth, but not enough to kill. "I advise you," Ethan said calmly, brushing crystal dust from his hands, "don't do this again. This was only a small punishment. I'm feeling quite generous, considering your neighbors with someone I'm close to." He crouched down to their level, voice lowering. "Quit these kinds of jobs and focus on your own lives." One man spat blood, already swelling face contorted with fear. "We were forced." "I'm sorry." Ethan's expression hardened. "You were not forced to do anything. You could have simply acted like you didn't see anything, but no." He stood, towering over their huddled forms. "You're greedy for whatever reward Han Wei promised." The men cowered, expecting further violence. Instead, Ethan's voice softened to something almost sympathetic. "Look at you. Mid-iron rank in your what 30s? He assessed them clinically. "Working as informants for bronze ranks, because you couldn't make it on your own. telling yourselves you have no choice when really, you just lack courage. He glanced around the street, where passers-by walked past, pretending not to notice the confrontation. Everyone here has choices. Every day. That woman there, he nodded toward an elderly woman hurrying past with a basket, chooses to work instead of begging, despite her age. That child, a young boy sweeping a shop front, chooses to help his family instead of stealing. Ethan's eyes returned to the bloodied men. You chose the easy path, selling information, betraying neighbors, serving those who would never see you as equals. He reached into his pouch, extracting 2 peak iron rank cores. With disregard, he tossed one to each man. Here's your last chance. These will boost your cultivation if you use them right. Become strong enough not to need masters, or remain weak enough to deserve them. Your choice. The men stared at the cores in disbelief, then back at Ethan. Why? One managed through broken teeth. Because I'm feeling generous, even to rats, he smiled. He turned without waiting for a response, continuing toward Tiana's building. Behind him, the men exchanged glances before examining the cores in their bloodied palms. He's right. You know, the first said, running his tongue over the gaps where teeth had been moments before. The other nodded, wincing as his swollen cheek throbbed. I know. Funny how someone half our age taught us something so basic. He chuckled, blood still leaking from the corner of his mouth. Yeah, only took us a few missing teeth and swollen faces to realize it. Huh. They laughed together, the sound equal parts pain and genuine mirth. 2 men suddenly seeing the absurdity of their lives through the clarity that only comes from having your face rearranged. Ahead, Ethan approached Tiana's building. Rather than bothering with the front entrance and inevitable questions, he glanced up at the window he knew belonged to her apartment. He crouched slightly, then launched himself upward. His jump carried him 3 stories high, his fingers catching the edge of a 3rd-floor balcony. Without pausing, he used the momentum to pull himself up and leap again, landing silently on the narrow ledge outside Tiana's window. Inside the apartment, Tiana lay sprawled across her unmade bed, staring blankly at the ceiling. The normally meticulous researcher hadn't bothered to leave that bed for the past 2 days, except for some necessities. Why bother? What was the point? News of the orphanage fire had shattered something inside her. Not just the tragedy itself, but the horrible suspicion that it wasn't random. That Ethan might have been hiding there. That he might have died in those flames, along with all those innocent children. She tried to reach District 3, desperate to confirm her fears, but the guards had blocked her at every turn. Too dangerous with the monster attacks, they'd said, unmoved by her pleas. So she'd retreated to her apartment, her brilliant mind cycling through grief and guilt and rage until exhaustion claimed her, only to begin again when she woke. Knock. The sound barely registered through her fog of despair. Knock, knock. Still she didn't move, assuming it was her imagination or perhaps her neighbor's cat scratching at the walls again. Knock, knock, knock. This time the sound was unmistakable, and coming from the window, not the door. Tiana frowned, pushing herself up from the bed. A bird on my window? At this height? She padded across the room in wrinkled clothes, hair sticking out at odd angles from 2 days without brushing. Reaching the window, she squinted through the glass, seeing nothing but the empty evening sky. Strange, I could have sworn. Suddenly a face popped up from below the windowsill, pressed against the glass with wide, manic eyes. Bah! Ethan shouted, his voice muffled through the pain. Arf! Tiana shrieked, stumbling backward so violently she tripped over a stack of research books and went sprawling across the floor. Her flailing arm caught a precarious tower of scrolls, sending them cascading across the room like dominoes. One knocked over an ink pot, which splashed across her desk before dripping steadily onto the carpet. From outside, Ethan's face transformed from mischievous grin to horrified concern as he watched the chain reaction of disaster unfold through the window. Tiana scrambled to her feet, heart pounding as she recognized the face at her window. "Ethan!" she shouted, rushing back to unlatch the window with trembling hands. "You're alive!" The window swung open, and Ethan climbed gracefully into the room, looking at the chaos he'd caused. "Sorry about that," he said, surveying the destruction. "I didn't think you'd—" He never finished the sentence as Tiana threw herself at him, wrapping him in a fierce hug that nearly knocked him back out the window. "You idiot," she cried, pounding his chest with her fist. "I thought you were dead." Ethan stood frozen, unsure how to respond to this emotional outburst. "I'm sorry," he tried. Tiana pulled back, suddenly aware of her appearance and the state of her apartment. She ran a self-conscious hand through her tangled hair. "Don't you sorry me. The orphanage burned down. 26 people died. I thought you were hiding there." "I thought." Her voice caught as she finally saw that some blood was spattered on his clothes. "Is that blood?" Ethan glanced down at himself, as if noticing the evidence of multiple kills. Yes. It's been a busy day." Tiana's eyes widened. "Busy? Busy. You disappear for days. The orphanage burns down. Monsters attack the city. And you show up at my window covered in blood, saying you've had a busy day?" Ethan blinked. "When you put it like that, it does sound inadequate." His fists tightened. "I just took revenge for the orphanage." Tiana's eyes immediately welled with tears. Her lips trembled as she fought to maintain control. She couldn't finish, the word catching in her throat. "It's okay," Ethan said, his voice gentler than she'd ever heard it. "But first, we need to leave this place. I don't know what General Han will do once he finds out what I caused at his mansion. He'll investigate and find out about me and you." Tiana stood frozen for a second, processing his words. Before she could ask, he responded. "I killed Han Wei," he replied matter-of-factly, "and his guards, and burned down his summer pavilion." Tiana's hand flew to her mouth. "You did what?" "He ordered the orphanage fire. I found proof. He confessed before I killed him." The detachment in his voice sent a shiver down Tiana's spine. This wasn't the Ethan she knew at all. "How did you even—" She gestured helplessly at him. "Han Wei had guards, protection." Ethan held out his hand, and to Tiana's astonishment, a small flame danced across his palm. "I'm not the same person I was before. I'll explain everything later, but right now, we need to move. Pack whatever you need." Tiana hesitated only briefly before nodding. This was Ethan, different, yes, but still the boy she'd watched grow up in the orphanage. If he said they were in danger, they were in danger. "Give me 5 minutes," she said, already moving. Ethan nodded, moving to the window to keep watch. "The monsters that attacked today were just the first wave," he said, eyes scanning the streets below. "The main horde is gathering. 3 silver ranks leading them." Tiana nearly dropped the stack of research she was collecting. 3 silvers? That's impossible. The city will fall. Not if we stop them first. She stared at his back, at the confident set of his shoulders. Ethan, even if you've somehow gotten stronger, the city can't fight silver ranks." He turned, and something in his eyes made her breath momentarily stop. "Not yet," he agreed, "but I'm growing stronger by the hour. And you understand these creatures better than anyone. Together, we might be the city's only chance." Tiana swallowed hard, then resumed packing with urgency. "Where will we go?" "First to Lin's restaurant in District 3. I need to check on Hongwei. Then somewhere we can prepare without interference." She nodded, shoving the last of her notes into a travel bag. "Ready." Ethan opened the window wider. "Can you climb on my back?" Tiana blinked. "You want to go out the window?" "This high up." "Trust me," he said simply. Tiana secured her bag. "Are you done packing?" "You can have more, it's fine." "Yes. I don't have much stuff anyway. I saved most of my salary," she said, as she took out a large bag full of crystals. "All right," he said, taking the bag before it vanished into thin air. "You have a storage ring?" Ethan nodded. "Not one. I have 2. He smiled, flashing both rings. "All right, let's go." Tiana nodded. She approached Ethan hesitantly, suddenly aware of their proximity in a way she hadn't been before. She gestured vaguely. "Climb on," he confirmed, crouching slightly to make it easier. Tiana stepped forward, placing her hands tentatively on his shoulders. The muscles beneath her fingers felt defined. As she leaned against his back, a subtle warmth radiated through his clothing. "Like this?" she asked, her voice unexpectedly soft. Arms around my neck, he instructed, his own voice dropping to match hers. She complied, sliding her arms around his neck as he straightened, lifting her effortlessly. Her chest pressed against his back, and she could feel the steady rhythm of his heartbeat, unnervingly calm despite everything that had happened. "Hold tight," he murmured. The simple command sent an involuntary shiver through her that had nothing to do with fear. She tightened her grip, her face close enough to his neck that she could smell his unique scent that made her feel safe. "I won't drop you," he promised, misinterpreting her tightening grip. "I know," she whispered, the words brushing against his ear. For a brief moment, neither moved. Then Ethan stepped onto the window ledge, breaking the spell. "Ready?" Tiana pressed her face against his shoulder, nodding against the fabric of his shirt. "Ready?" Ethan stepped onto the narrow windowsill. The drop nothing but empty air beneath them. For a normal human, this would be suicide. For him, it was barely an inconvenience. His enhanced speed talent activated, slowing the world around him. Iron enhancement hardened his fingers for a better grip. With precise and fluid movements, he began descending the building's exterior. His fingers found impossibly small holds in the stonework. His toes gripped minute ledges with the precision of a mountain lizard. What should have been a perilous climb became an elegant dance down the vertical surface. Tiana gasped against his neck as they descended at a pace that defied human capability. 3 stories, 2, 1. The ground rushed up to meet them. Ethan absorbed the final impact with bent knees, landing as lightly as if he'd stepped off a curb instead of dropping from a 4-story building. "That was..." Tiana's voice trailed off as Ethan landed, her eyes wide with wonder. "Cool." Instead of setting her down, Ethan adjusted his grip, keeping her securely on his back. "Hold tight. We're not done yet." He took off down the street. The world blurred around them as his legs ate up the distance, buildings and people smearing into streaks of color. Tiana's initial amazement quickly transformed into nausea as her body struggled to process the impossible velocity. Her stomach lurched violently while rising in her throat. "Ethan, slow down. I'm about to vomit," she groaned, fingers digging desperately into his shoulders. Ethan immediately decelerated, coming to a complete stop in an empty alley near the district border. He crouched, allowing Tiana to slide off his back and steady herself against a wall. "Are you okay? Do you need anything?" Concern replaced the usual detachment in his voice. Tiana shook her head weakly, eyes squeezed shut as she pressed a hand over her mouth. "I just feel off. Just give me a minute." "Take your time," he nodded, scanning their surroundings. The district border loomed just ahead. "Sorry about that," Tiana mumbled, finally straightening up. "Not used to whatever that was." "No, it's my fault." Ethan shook his head, genuine remorse crossing his features. Tiana leaned against the wall, waiting for her stomach to settle. After a few minutes of controlled breathing, Tiana straightened. "I'm ready." "Are you sure?" Ethan studied her face. "Yes." She nodded firmly. "Let's not waste more time." "All right, let's continue walking. We've almost arrived anyway." Rather than heading toward the main checkpoint where refugees clustered, Ethan led Tiana along a less traveled path. They approached a small side gate, the same one Stephen had shown him earlier that day. A guard stepped forward as they approached, spear held at a relaxed but ready position. "Badge," he demanded, expression bored beneath his helmet. Ethan nodded calmly, reaching into his pocket. He withdrew the Han family badge he'd taken from Stephen's corpse, presenting it to the guard. The guard examined it briefly, straightening when he recognized the emblem. Han family business wasn't something mere gate guards questioned, especially with monsters attacking. "Go ahead," he said with respect, stepping aside. Ethan and Tiana passed through without further challenge, slipping into the crowded streets of District 3. Once safely beyond the checkpoint, Tiana released a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Her mind had cycled through countless disaster scenarios, being recognized, being questioned about the blood on Ethan's clothes, being connected to whatever chaos was unfolding at the Han family compound. "That was," she whispered, suspiciously easy. "People see what they expect," Ethan said. A Han family badge says Han business. No questions asked. And the truth? There aren't many guards left. And the ones still around? She glanced back. They'd rather flee than face General Han's wrath. Ethan responded. Even if they tried something, I'd have flattened them and walked in. No one here can stop us. As they walked deeper into District 3, Ethan's stride faltered as he walked past the main entrance point to the 2nd District. His gaze fixed on the checkpoint ahead. A chaotic mass of humanity pressed against barriers. Desperate refugees from the outer districts pleaded with the stone-faced guards. Families clutched meager possessions. Children cried from exhaustion. Still, no one was allowed through. Ethan's brow furrowed. "Wait here a moment," he told Tiana, scanning the crowd. "What is it?" she asked, following his gaze. "Lynn and her father. I told them to come here. I thought they'd be allowed through, but it seems like the guards have been given some strict warnings." The sea of rejected refugees told the story clearly enough. District 2 had closed its borders completely after the monster attack, leaving 3rd District residents to fend for themselves. I need to find them, Ethan thought. Without Tiana's help, they'll have nowhere safe to stay after a few days. "Who's Lynn?" Tiana asked, a hint of something unidentifiable in her voice. "Restaurant owner's daughter. They sheltered me when I needed it. If they're still out there, I need to bring them back." He turned to Tiana. "Can you wait here? I'll be quick." She nodded reluctantly. "Be careful." Ethan offered a rare half-smile. "All right." Before Tiana could respond, he slipped into the crowd. The crowd thickened as he approached the border. Desperate people packed shoulder to shoulder in diminishing hope of passage. Somewhere in this chaos, Lynn and her father might be fighting for a chance at safety. "Please, we can pay as much as you want. There are too many people here, girl. Back away from the checkpoint." Ethan slipped through the crowd, appearing beside Lynn and her father so suddenly that both jumped. Lynn's face lit with relief, then disbelief. "What are you, Dash? Come with me," he said, grabbing both daughter and father. Lynn and her father exchanged confused glances, but followed Ethan without question as he led them back through the crowd. Tiana waited where he'd left her, expression brightening when she spotted him returning with 2 people in tow. "You found them," she said, relief evident in her voice. Lynn stared at Tiana, her eyes widening. "You're that girl." Ethan made quick introductions as they moved through the streets toward Lynn's restaurant. "You are exaggerating. I merely gave you a small room," Lynn's father said gruffly, as Ethan explained everything that happened with a grateful tone. When they arrived at the modest restaurant, Ethan knocked on the storage door. "It's Ethan. Open up." There was a moment of silence, then a voice that was clearly Hong Wei's attempting to sound like a gruff adult. "Ethan, who's that? Leave my premises now." Ethan rolled his eyes. "You brat. Open now. I have people with me." Hong Wei dropped his act immediately, and the door started opening. Hong Wei dropped his act immediately, hands fumbling with the locks as the door swung open. Ethan motioned for Lynn and her father to enter quickly. "Inside now." They nodded, slipping through the doorway without hesitation. Ethan cast one final sweeping glance down the darkened street, probing for any watchers. Satisfied they hadn't been followed, he stepped inside and secured the door behind them. Inside the dimly lit restaurant, Hong Wei and Tiana locked eyes for the first time in what felt like forever. The boy froze mid-step, sudden emotion washing across his young face. "Older sister," he said, his voice small and unexpectedly vulnerable. "Hong Wei," Tiana replied, a genuine smile breaking through her exhaustion. Something glistened in her eyes as she took in the boy who'd grown so much in such a short time. They had been inseparable once, the trio from Mrs. Chen's orphanage. Ethan leading, Hong Wei following, and Tiana keeping them both out of trouble. Now reunited under circumstances none could have imagined. Lynn and her father moved deeper into the restaurant, giving the reunion space while they secured windows and lit lamps against the gathering darkness outside. Something unfamiliar tightened in his chest as he watched Hong Wei and Tiana. The sight triggered memories that weren't quite his, the original Ethan's recollections of growing up together in the orphanage. We need to talk, he said, bringing everyone's attention back to the pressing situation. All of us. Plans have changed. Lynn finished lighting the last lamp, casting the restaurant in a warm glow that belied the danger lurking beyond its walls. Lynn's father nodded. Are you guys hungry? Let me prepare some food whilst we talk. Growl. Hong Wei's stomach growled, making his cheeks flush in embarrassment. Sorry, Uncle Lin smiled. I will go prepare now. It will take us 10 minutes. Lin, come with me. Lin nodded and got up. Thank you, the trio said. 10 minutes passed, and Lin came back with her father and a massive container. The monster horde? Lin's father asked, already ladling rich stew into bowls. Yes, the monster horde. Ethan accepted the bowl with a nod of thanks. Uncle Lin, I want you to close your restaurant for the next few days. Things will get dangerous. We need to barricade the entire building. Lin's father frowned, calloused hands pausing mid-task. That's serious? Worse than you imagine, Ethan replied, his voice level. You all will stay here while I go out regularly to check our surroundings and help with the defenses. My priority is keeping this place safe, so you don't have to worry about that. What about supplies? Lin asked practically, already mentally cataloging their inventory. I'll handle it, Ethan assured her. I have resources now. Tiana spread a city map across the main table. We should mark safe routes, fallback positions in case we need to evacuate quickly. Hong Wei leaned in, eager to contribute. I know all the shortcuts in this district. Nobody knows them better than orphanage kids. They spent the next hour planning meticulously: food stores, water collection, barricade materials, emergency signals. The main floor can be rearranged, the older man offered as they finished. We can move the tables against the walls, create another sleeping area, give everyone more space. That would help. Ethan nodded gratefully. Let's do it now. The group worked efficiently, transforming the restaurant's dining area into a functional living space. Tables became barriers. Cabinets were reorganized for easier access to necessities. Windows were reinforced with wooden slats from the storage room. As they worked, Ethan noticed Hong Wei watching him with questions burning in his eyes. Questions that couldn't be asked in front of others. When the work was finally done, Lin yawned, stretching tired muscles. We should get some rest. Tomorrow will be busy. Her father nodded in agreement. I'll prepare breakfast before dawn. We'll need strength for what's coming. They bid good night, climbing the stairs to their modest living quarters above the restaurant, leaving Ethan, Tiana, and Hong Wei alone in the newly arranged space. The moment their footsteps faded, Hong Wei's demeanor changed. His shoulders stiffened, boyish energy replaced by something harder, colder. What happened to Hong Wei? He asked, voice barely above a whisper. Ethan met his gaze directly. He's dead. 3 simple words. A universe of meaning. Hong Wei's posture immediately relaxed, tension flowing out of him like water. Good, he muttered, voice catching as tears slipped past his control, tracking silent paths down his cheeks. Ethan placed a hand on the boy's shoulder, the gesture awkward but sincere. Did he suffer? Hong Wei asked after a moment. Enough, Ethan replied simply. He knew why he was dying. He knew it was for the orphanage. Hong Wei nodded, wiping tears with his sleeve. And the others? The ones who helped him? All dead, Ethan confirmed. Every last one. Tiana watched them silently. Mrs. Chun would say revenge doesn't bring peace, Hong Wei said softly, echoing thoughts from earlier. But she's not here to say it anymore. Because of him. The dead are beyond our help, Ethan replied, unexpected wisdom in his voice. The living aren't. That's where we focus now. Hong Wei straightened, something in Ethan's words reaching him. You're right. What can I do to help? Get some rest. Tiana interjected gently. Tomorrow we have lots to do. I won't let you down, Hong Wei promised, heading toward the sleeping mat prepared for him in the dining area. They had converted the dining room into a makeshift dormitory, with mats arranged strategically near exits and away from windows. The storage room had been cleared to give Tiana private quarters, while Ethan and Hong Wei would sleep in the dining area. After talking with Tiana for a while, Ethan stood up. Get some rest, Ethan advised. Your mind works better when you're not exhausted. She nodded, fatigue evident in the shadows beneath her eyes. "What about you? I'll keep watch for a while. Make sure we're secure." Ethan closed the door gently behind him as he left, giving her the privacy she needed. When he returned to the dining area, Hong Wei was already curled on his mat, breathing slow and steady in apparent sleep. Ethan knew better. The slight tension in the boy's shoulders revealed his wakefulness, but he respected the pretense. Sometimes silence was easier than conversation. Ethan settled onto his own mat, staring at the ceiling as he reflected on everything that had happened. His life had been chaotic since the moment he'd transmigrated into this body, from being a cannon fodder that was destined to be discarded to someone with some power and strength. He'd never asked for any of this. Not the transmigration, not the responsibility for these people now sleeping under his protection, not the monstrous abilities that grew stronger with each kill. And yet, here he was. Outside, distant howls echoed through the night. Monsters testing the city's outer defenses. Closer, the occasional shouts revealed nervous guards patrolling the streets. At the north side of the city, General Han paced the length of his headquarters like a caged beast. The silver-ranked monster threat kept him tethered here on the city lord's direct orders. Do not abandon your post unless the walls come under direct attack. His communication crystal had flashed repeatedly throughout the evening. His attempts to reach Han Wei met with silence. Finally, he dispatched one of his most trusted guards to the summer pavilion, expecting a simple report that his son had broken or neglected his crystal. "Knock, knock. Come in," General Han barked, turning toward the door. The guard entered and immediately fell to one knee, head bowed low. The man's uniform was singed and soot-stained, his face ashen. "Report," the general demanded. "Sir, the summer pavilion." The guard faltered, swallowing hard. "It's gone." "Gone? What do you mean by gone?" "Burned to the ground, sir. Nothing salvageable." General Han's face darkened. "And foam?" "My son's guards. Most are dead, sir. Their bodies were found inside, badly burned." A chill settled in General Han's stomach. "Most? Who survived?" "We're still accounting for all personnel, sir. The scene is chaotic." The general stepped closer, his low silver aura pressing down on the kneeling guard. "And my son? Where is Han Wei?" The guard audibly gulped, his forehead touching the floor in the deepest possible bow. He passed away, sir. His body was identified in his private chambers." Something snapped in General Han's mind. The words echoed hollowly in his ears as the implications crashed through him like a physical blow. His son, dead, in his own pavilion. "Who?" he whispered, the single word carrying the weight of promised vengeance. "Who dared?" His aura exploded outward, cracking the stone floor beneath them. The guard trembled, pinned by the silver rank pressure. "You said most were dead. Who survived?" "Who?" The general seized the guard by his collar, lifting him bodily from the ground. "I want you to bring them to me. Now, find them, even if they're buried under the earth. I want to know exactly what happened." "Why, yes, General," the guard choked out. "Right away." The general's eyes narrowed as a new thought occurred to him. "Why am I only hearing about this now? A fire of that magnitude. Someone should have reported it immediately." The guard winced, clearly dreading this question. "General, the pavilion was isolated in your private territory, as you designed it. No neighbors, no public roads within half a mile." He hesitated before continuing. "And with the monster attacks in District 3, most people are in their houses." His voice trailed off as General Han's aura intensified. "You mean to tell me my son burned to death and nobody noticed for hours?" "The walls around the property contain the visible smoke, sir. Find whoever is alive from those traitors. I want to see them." General Han dropped the man, who scrambled to his feet and bolted from the room. The general activated his communication crystal, channeling energy into it to connect with the city lord. The crystal flashed 3 times before a connection was established. General Han, the figure acknowledged, voice distorted. "My lord, I request immediate leave from my post. My son has been murdered, my summer pavilion destroyed." "I see," the city lord replied, his tone nonchalant. "Unfortunate timing, with a monster threat so imminent." General Han's knuckles whitened around the crystal. My lord, with all due respect, I need to investigate this myself. My son is dead, the city lord interrupted coldly, and will remain so whether you investigate now or later. Your duty is to the northern wall, General. The silver ranks have been sighted less than 5 miles from the city. But this is not negotiable. The city lord's voice hardened. However, I will assign my personal investigators to the matter. They will report directly to me, and I will keep you informed of their findings. General Han gritted his teeth. When can I expect their first report? When there is something to report, the city lord replied dismissively. For now, focus on keeping those monsters outside our walls. That is your only concern. The connection closed abruptly, leaving General Han staring at the darkened crystal. Damn it, he roared, hurling the crystal against the wall. It bounced harmlessly, enchanted to withstand far worse. He slammed his fist into his war table, splintering the hardwood. Hanwei, someone had murdered his only son, and he was powerless to act. Forced to remain at his post while his heir's killer walked free. After letting the initial wave of rage wash through him, General Han took a deep breath. His eyes cooled from burning amber to calculating ice. He'd had enough of the city lord's dismissive attitude, enough of being treated like a common soldier despite decades of loyal service. The general moved to the window, gazing north where monster hordes gathered beyond the wall. Silver-rank beasts commanding armies of lesser creatures. A genuine threat, yes, but also an opportunity. City lords, he murmured, tracing the distant wall with his fingertip. Such privilege, such power. The position of city lord came with benefits that awakeners could only dream of. General Han had coveted that position for decades, but he never had the power or the opportunity. A cold smile formed on his face. Perhaps it's time for a change in leadership, he whispered to himself. Morning came, sunlight filtering through the cracks in the boarded-up windows. Uncle Lin rose up, his internal clock honed by decades of his work at the restaurant. His daughter Lin followed minutes later, both moving quietly to avoid disturbing their guests. As they descended the stairs to begin breakfast preparations, Lin's daughter froze mid-step, spotting Ethan sitting cross-legged near the window, eyes alert and scanning the street. You're already awake? She asked, genuinely surprised. Ethan nodded. Never really slept. Why? She asked, feeling slightly worried about him. Just didn't feel like it. He shrugged before standing up. Lin nodded, not pressing on the issue. Food will be ready soon. Thanks, he nodded. Ethan rose fluidly, crossing to where Hong Wei was buried under blankets, only a tuft of hair visible. He looked at the boy for a moment, then unceremoniously yanked the blanket away. Gah! Hong Wei flailed, arms and legs pinwheeling before he tumbled onto the floor. What the Ethan? Breakfast, Ethan stated simply. Hong Wei groaned, rubbing his eyes. There are nicer ways to wake people, you know. Yeah, but they aren't efficient. He smiled. The boy grumbled, but the smell of cooking food quickly transformed his mood. He sniffed appreciatively, stomach growling loudly enough to make Lin's daughter laugh. Ethan moved to the storage room door, knocking 3 times. No response. He knocked again louder. Tiana. Food. A muffled thump sounded from inside. Just a minute. Hong Wei sidled up beside Ethan, a mischievous grin spreading across his face as he eyed the food. A few minutes later, Tiana opened the storage room and got out. Good morning. Good morning, they all replied back to her. Uncle Lin came from the kitchen, carrying a steaming pot to the table. I made some rice porridge with preserved vegetables and a bit of salted fish. Good energy for difficult times. The group gathered around the table as Lin's daughter distributed bowls. I haven't had your porridge in ages, Tiana said, accepting her portion gratefully. Hong Wei shoveled a huge spoonful into his mouth. This is amazing, he declared, cheeks bulging. Don't talk with your mouth full, Tiana scolded automatically, falling into the familiar role of older sister. Okay, Hong Wei retorted, deliberately taking an even bigger bite. The conversation flowed around Ethan as he observed them, these people who trusted him without fully understanding what he was becoming. Ethan's not eating much, Lynn observed, pushing the pot closer to him. You need strength more than any of us. I'm fine, Ethan replied, but took another small portion to appease the older man. He's always been a light eater, Tiana explained. Even at the orphanage, Mrs. Chun had to practically force seconds on him. Meanwhile, Hong Wei could eat his body weight daily. Ethan added unexpectedly, drawing surprised looks at his participation in the reminiscing. Hong Wei grinned, not denying it. I'm a growing boy. Growing in which direction is the question, Tiana teased. After they finished breakfast, Ethan turned to Uncle Lin. Do you need any supplies? The older man nodded, already mentally cataloging their resources. Water, most urgently, and flour if you can find it. We can stretch our meals with bread. I'll try to bring some back, Ethan said, rising from the table. He moved to the door, removing the makeshift barricade of tables and chairs with ease. Before stepping out, he turned back to the group. Place the barricades back after I leave. And don't open the door until you know it's me. Understand? They nodded, Hong Wei's expression suddenly serious. Be careful out there, Tiana said, concern evident in her voice. Lynn's daughter added, see you soon. I'll be fine, Ethan replied simply, slipping through the door into the morning light. Hong Wei's, don't do anything stupid, followed him as the door closed. Outside, the usually bustling streets of District 3 stood nearly deserted. Market stalls remained unassembled, shops locked tight behind heavy shutters. The few people moving about hurried with heads down, glancing nervously toward the city walls. Everyone is afraid, Ethan thought, scanning the empty streets. Finding supplies would be difficult with businesses closed. He needed an alternate source. The military dormitory came to mind. Jack might be able to help. He wasn't a close friend, but he'd been decent to Ethan during his time as a scout. More importantly, he had access to the military supply depot. It was a risk, certainly, but it was worth the shot. Besides, if things went poorly, the base's inhabitants couldn't stop him from leaving anymore. He moved through back alleys and side streets, avoiding the few patrols present. His speed made the journey quick, bringing him to the dormitory's rear entrance within minutes. Ethan hesitated, staring at the scanner. His crystal might have been flagged in the system. Only one way to find out. He pressed the crystal against the scanner, preparing for alarms. The door clicked, unlocking without incident. They didn't remove me. Interesting, it seems like the system is very primitive, he thought, slipping inside. The corridors stood mostly empty. Night shift workers would be sleeping, day shift already at their posts. Ethan made his way to Jack's room on the 3rd floor, recalling the man's schedule as a scout. He should be inside, probably sleeping after wall duty, Ethan reasoned, approaching the door. He knocked 3 times. The door cracked open, revealing Jack's sleepy face, which immediately transformed into wide-eyed shock. Ethan, he hissed, glancing frantically up and down the corridor. Before Ethan could respond, Jack grabbed his arm and yanked him inside, shutting the door with a soft click. Are you insane? Jack whispered fiercely, running a hand through his disheveled hair. Half the city guard is looking for you. Ethan raised an eyebrow. I need supplies. Jack stared at him incredulously. Supplies? You need to be halfway to the next city by now. Do you have any idea what's happening? I have some idea, Ethan replied calmly. What did you do, Ethan? Ethan studied the man before him, assessing trustworthiness. Jack had always been straight with him, but he didn't need to know. I didn't do anything. But you know how this city works? If someone with enough power wants you dead, you need to be dead. You dash. He cut himself off, taking a deep breath. Okay. What supplies do you need? Water and flour, specifically, Ethan confirmed. Jack dropped onto his bed, laughing in disbelief. You're either the bravest or craziest person I've ever met. Neither. Ethan leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Will you help or not? Jack studied him, noting the changes since they'd last met. The different posture, the cold confidence, the eyes that seemed older somehow. You're different, he observed. Something happened to you. Many things, Ethan acknowledged. Jack studied him for a moment longer, then seemed to reach a decision. I'll help you. The military implemented a new rations system recently. You can buy supplies with cores. Ethan nodded, reaching into his pocket. Here, take these. He casually withdrew 2 high iron cores, holding them out like they were copper coins. Jack's eyes widened dramatically. Every scout knew that their monthly salary amounted to a handful of low iron cores at best. 2 high iron cores represented wealth beyond most soldiers' imagination. This is too much, Jack stammered, staring at the glowing cores. It's fine, Ethan said with a dismissive wave. Just buy me as much as you can and keep the rest for yourself and your family. Jack hesitated, clearly torn between necessity and pride. Finally, he reached out and accepted the cores. Thank you. Thank you too, Ethan replied, clapping him on the shoulder. Let's meet at the abandoned tannery near the west wall. 2 hours from now. Jack nodded. I'll be there in an hour and a half. No problem. Take your time, Ethan said, already moving toward the door. He slipped from the room like a shadow, leaving Jack staring at the cores in his palm, wondering what exactly he'd gotten himself involved in. The abandoned tannery stood like a ghost of former prosperity, its crumbling walls barely holding on. Ethan arrived early, positioning himself on the building's second floor, where he could observe all approaches without being seen. 90 minutes later, Jack appeared, lugging a large canvas bag over his shoulder. Ethan dropped silently from his perch, landing beside Jack without warning. Gah! Jack nearly dropped the bag. Make some noise next time. Sorry, Ethan said, not sounding sorry at all. He gestured to the supplies. You got everything? Jack lowered the heavy bag to the ground with a grunt. This is 30 kilograms of flour and 5 5-liter bottles of water. Would have gotten more, but it's difficult to carry due to their size. This is perfect, Ethan said, examining the supplies. The amount would keep everyone fed for at least a few weeks if rationed properly. Jack fished in his pocket and extended his hand, offering several cores back to Ethan. Here, this is what's left over. Ethan shook his head. Keep it. Consider it payment for the risk. But you have family to take care of, Ethan interrupted, and I may need your help again. Jack reluctantly pocketed the cores. There's something else you should know. What's wrong? Ethan frowned. The monster activity increased overnight. Something big is coordinating them. The wall might get attacked later today. So be careful. 3 of them. Ethan finished for him. I know. Jack blinked in surprise. How do you? Doesn't matter. When you see the walls getting attacked, run. Because they're trying to use you guys at the front as fodder and information gatherers. The general in charge of our direction will not act until the silver ranks appear, and when they appear. Even he won't be able to win. So I advise you to find some excuse to run when you sense something is wrong. If this city was worth protecting, I would have told you to stay and fight for your honor, but this city is corrupted. Take care of your family. That's more important. Ethan returned to the restaurant with the rations inside Han Wei's storage ring that he took. It's me, Ethan, he said as he waited for them to remove the barricades. Entering, they looked at him empty-handed. It's okay. It must have been hard to find something with everything going on. Tiana comforted him just in case he felt bad. Ethan smiled. Who said I didn't get anything? A large bag appeared out of nowhere and landed on the floor. Thud! Han Wei's jaw dropped at the sight of the supplies materializing from thin air. Whoa! Uncle Lin moved forward, examining the contents with expert precision. So much flour, water. This is more than I expected. How did you manage this? Ethan shrugged, as if pulling supplies out of nowhere was a daily occurrence. I have my methods. Tiana narrowed her eyes, studying him with that penetrating gaze that always made him feel exposed. And what methods would those be? An old friend owed me a favor, Ethan replied, technically not lying. The market's empty, but the military still has supplies. The military? Lin's voice dropped to a whisper. You risked going to the military base? Han Wei rushed over, poking at the storage ring on Ethan's finger with unbridled curiosity. Can I try it? Can I put something in? How much can it hold? Ethan pulled his hand away. You can't, it's tied to me. But, Han Wei, Tiana interrupted, help Uncle Lin with the supplies. The boy pouted but obeyed, hefting one of the water containers with difficulty. Uncle Lin took the heavier flour bag, grunting slightly under its weight. "We should ration carefully," the older man advised. "No telling how long we'll need to make this last." As they sorted the supplies, Ethan moved to the window, peering through a gap in the boards. The streets remained eerily empty, most residents hiding in their homes. Lin approached, standing beside him. "You're worried about something." It wasn't a question. Ethan's eyes remained fixed on the distant city wall. "The monster wave is coming. Soon." "How can you be so sure?" she asked. "I just know." Lin studied his profile, something unreadable in her expression. Before Ethan could answer, a distant rumble shook the building, dust sifting down from the ceiling. The rumble grew into a roar, followed by the unmistakable sound of the city alarm bells. Everyone froze. "What was that?" Hong Wei whispered, eyes wide with fear. "It's starting," Ethan said grimly, moving away from the window. The second attack. Tiana joined them, her research instincts already engaged. "The second? You think there will be more?" "Not sure, but the silver ranks are testing our defenses, learning our patterns." Uncle Lin's weathered face creased with concern. "Should we move deeper into the city?" Ethan shook his head. "No need." Another impact shook the building, and screams erupted from somewhere down the street. "That doesn't sound like the previous one," Lin whispered. Ethan's expression darkened as he moved back to the window. Outside, people were running, panic spreading like wildfire. "Something's wrong," he muttered. "This is happening too fast." A third impact, powerful enough to rattle the dishes on the shelves. Hong Wei yelped, ducking instinctively. "I need to see what's happening," Ethan decided, already moving toward the door. Tiana grabbed his arm. "Are you insane? You can't. I need to know what we're facing. We can't remain as sitting ducks waiting until they come and eat us." He turned to the others. "Stay here. Barricade the door after I leave." Ethan gave them one last look, his expression revealing nothing of the turmoil beneath. Then he slipped through the door into the chaos beyond. Outside, the situation was deteriorating rapidly. People rushed through the streets, heading toward the inner districts. "Stop running. Calm down. We're taking care of it." City guards attempted to maintain order, but their shouts were lost in the growing panic. Ethan moved against the flow effortlessly. Each step took him closer to the wall. Another impact rocked the district, this one accompanied by a high-pitched shriek that no human throat could produce. Ethan recognized it immediately. It was the sound of a razorback boar, at least high bronze rank. He scaled a nearby building, fingers finding impossible holds in the stonework. From the rooftop, he could see the wall, and what was happening beyond it. The blood drained from his face. It wasn't just monsters attacking the wall. It was a full-scale invasion, far earlier than he'd anticipated. And worse, the Silver Rank weren't holding back as they should. The Silver Rank was leading the charge, fighting the general in charge of their part of the city. "It seems like this is their last attack." Ethan accelerated towards the wall, and in seconds, he reached it as he watched the general fighting the Silver Rank with a few of the high bronze officials. "Fall back," the general shouted, his silver aura flaring as he parried a devastating blow from the crystal ape. "Reinforce the eastern section." "Sir, we can't hold." One of the bronze officials yelled back, blood streaming down his face from a gash above his eye. "They're breaking through." The crystal ape roared, slamming crystallized fists against the stone. Each impact sent tremors through the entire structure, dust and debris raining down on the defenders. Ferocious beast, crystal ape, rank mid-silver, crystal hardening talent, D-gray. Ethan frowned. Luckily, the general was mid-silver, nearing the threshold of mid-silver accompanied by 2 peak bronze officials. Otherwise, the wall would have already broken. Ethan's eyes landed on the normal soldiers who were fighting for their lives as hundreds of monsters attacked. Although they are holding off the ape, the other monsters are having their way with the soldiers. He thought grimly, "I can't hold back. Otherwise, when they enter, even I will die." Rank, peak bronze. Talents, enhanced speed, protective shield, F, iron enhancement, E, accuracy enhancement, F+, regeneration, F+, dagger wield, F, water, F, wind, F, fire, F+, mental enhancement F. Transformations: Shadow Fawn Wolf, Peak Iron, Razorback Boar, mid-bronze, Black Beetle, mid-bronze, Brown Bear, mid-bronze. Level 3. Health points: 1200 mana points, 1000. Strength: 120 agility, 120 intelligence, 100 vitality, 120. Free attributes: 10. Skills: basic footwork, novice, 18%. After taking Hanwei's ring, he found dozens of bronze cores, which he used to increase all his attributes. Currently, he was at the peak bronze rank with all his attributes except intelligence. In the same rank, he was unstoppable. I should be able to beat a low silver, but a mid-silver. That would be troublesome, he thought grimly. I will try to help with the smaller fries so the walls aren't breached first, he thought before leaping towards the wall. Where the hell did you come from? A startled soldier yelped as Ethan landed beside him in a crouch. The man barely had time to register Ethan's presence before a wolf-like monster lunged for his throat. Ethan's sword flashed, opening the beast from jaw to chest in one fluid motion. Focus on staying alive, Ethan replied, already moving to his next target. The soldier stared after him, mouth agape. What the? Incoming, someone shouted from above. A massive chunk of the wall, dislodged by the crystal ape's relentless assault, plummeted toward the defenders. Soldiers scattered, some not fast enough to escape. Ethan activated his enhanced speed, time seeming to slow around him. He grabbed a young recruit frozen in terror, yanking him clear as the stone crashed where he'd stood moments before. Thank you, the boy stammered, face white with shock. Ethan nodded, once before turning his attention back to the battle. The wall was failing faster than expected. Cracks spread like spider webs through the ancient fortifications, weakening with each thunderous impact from the silver-rank beast. Above, the general released a battle cry as he drove his sword into the crystal ape's shoulder. The monster howled, crystals along its spine glowing brighter as it activated its hardening talent. Sir, the wall is collapsing, the general cursed, extracting his blade from the monster's crystallized flesh. Damn it, I can't do anything. Don't you see me fighting this damn AP? Ethan's eyes narrowed and looked at the direction where the soldier was talking from. Without hesitation, Ethan leapt there and started helping the soldiers, fending off the stronger ones. The soldiers' eyes widened as Ethan landed among them, his movements a blur as he intercepted a bronze-rank wolf beast mid-pounce. What the? A grizzled sergeant stumbled back, nearly dropping his sword. Ethan didn't waste time on explanations. He drove his sword through the wolf's skull, kicking the corpse aside as he turned to the next threat. Focus, he snapped at the stunned defenders. Form a line. Don't let them break through. Something in his voice, the absolute certainty, the command, snapped the soldiers out of their shock. They fell into formation around him, their discipline returning despite the chaos. Hold the line, the sergeant shouted, finding his courage again. Just like the kid says, a massive bear-like monster, mid-bronze rank, charged their position. The soldiers braced, fear evident in their white-knuckled grips. Ethan stepped forward, activating his iron enhancement. The monster's claws raked across his hardened skin, merely scratching the iron coating where they should have disemboweled him. The soldiers gasped as Ethan grabbed the beast's paw and twisted with impossible strength. The cracking sound of breaking bone echoed across the battlements. Now, Ethan shouted. The soldiers didn't hesitate this time. 3 spears plunged into the monster's exposed flank, bringing it down in a heap of fur and blood. Who is this kid? A young soldier whispered, all replacing fear in his eyes. Don't know. Don't care, the sergeant replied. Just glad he's on our side. Their morale should be higher now that they killed one of their fears. Ethan could have easily killed the beast, but he wanted to increase their morale by letting them participate in it. Another section of wall trembled beneath their feet as the crystal ape renewed its assault. Cracks spread through the ancient stone like living things, widening with each impact. We can't hold this position much longer, the sergeant called to Ethan. Ethan surveyed the battlefield with cold calculation. The monsters were coordinating their attacks now, focusing on structural weak points rather than defenders. They're targeting support columns, he realized aloud. This isn't random destruction. The sergeant frowned. These are beasts. They don't plan. These ones do, Ethan replied grimly. Fall back to the secondary position. This section's already lost. But our orders... Your general is busy with a silver rank. Use your head. The sergeant hesitated, then nodded sharply. You heard him. Fall back. Orderly retreat. The soldiers began withdrawing, maintaining formation as they abandoned the crumbling section of the wall. Ethan stayed behind, ensuring everyone made it to safety. As the last soldier cleared the danger zone, a massive tremor shook the entire structure. Look out, someone shouted. Ethan turned just as the section of wall collapsed entirely. He leapt, enhanced speed carrying him barely ahead of the falling debris. He landed in a roll among the retreating soldiers, springing back to his feet without breaking stride. The sergeant clapped him on the shoulder. Nice move, kid. My name's Ethan. Sergeant Way. The man replied with a nod of respect. Whatever you are, glad you showed up when you did. Ethan nodded. We need to repair that section of the wall. Tell some of your men to bring the repair materials. Let's use this as a choke point. Otherwise, they will wreak havoc in the city. Wei's eyes widened at the suggestion, then narrowed in understanding. Smart. Very smart. He turned to his men, voice booming with renewed authority. You heard him. Gather whatever you can find. Beams, stones, debris. Anything to narrow that breach. The rest of you, Ethan called out, his sword in his hand, form up on me. Slay them when they enter. The soldiers exchanged glances, then moved into position without hesitation. Something about the young man's confidence was infectious, filling them with a resolve that had wavered moments ago. They're coming, a soldier at the edge shouted, pointing at the approaching wave of monsters. Ethan positioned himself at the center of the bottleneck. The soldiers flanked him in a loose semicircle, their bows ready. Ethan positioned himself at the center of the bottleneck, feeling the familiar warmth building within him as he channeled mana to his fire talent. The first monster, a wolf-like creature with razor teeth, leapt through the narrow opening. Ethan's hand shot forward, a concentrated blast of flame erupting from his palm. The beast howled as fire engulfed it, momentum carrying its burning body into the path of the soldiers around Ethan. What the? A soldier gasped, nearly lowering his spear in shock. Focus. Kill the ones that escape towards you or are injured. Ethan snapped, already preparing his next attack. The soldiers nodded, already dispatching the wolf on fire. Two more monsters charged through, only to meet the same fiery fate. The fourth and fifth followed, their flesh sizzling under the intense heat of Ethan's flames. Don't waste your energy, Sergeant Way shouted to some of his stunned men. Let him soften them up. We finish them off. The soldiers adapted quickly, striking down burning monsters as they stumbled through the breach. Soon they fell into a deadly rhythm. Ethan's flames, followed by precise spear thrusts and sword slashes. One of the monsters was able to escape, lightly injured as it hid behind towers. This one's mine. A burly soldier stepped forward, driving his spear into the creature's eye. The monster dropped instantly. Good kill. Ethan nodded, already focusing on the next wave. 10, 15, 20 monsters fell in rapid succession, their charred bodies piling up in the breach until they formed a gruesome barricade. Behind them, Wei's other men worked frantically to reinforce the damaged section, dragging beams and stones into place. It's working, someone shouted as the monsters began hesitating, unwilling to face the wall of flame. From outside the wall came frustrated howls as the horde realized their direct assault was failing. The pressure against the breach suddenly lessened. They're pulling back, Wei observed, squinting through the smoke. Ethan nodded, allowing the flames to subside as he caught his breath. Using his fire talent continuously had drained nearly a quarter of his mana reserves. They're not giving up, he warned, scanning the battlefield beyond the wall. There. Look, a soldier pointed along the wall. They're attacking other sections. True to Ethan's prediction, The monsters had begun targeting multiple points along the wall, spreading the defenders thin. "Hurry up! Close it!" Ethan ordered the repair crew. "The rest, help me kill them." The soldiers nodded, splitting into teams without question. Half continued reinforcing the breach, while the others followed Ethan toward the nearest point of attack. As they ran along the battlement, Ethan assessed their situation. Ethan and the group reached the next breach point. A group of soldiers fought desperately against a swarm of smaller monsters, while the bronze-rank beasts were wreaking havoc. "Focus on helping everyone," Ethan shouted. "I will kill their leader." "Yes, sir." The soldiers found themselves unintentionally taking him as their leader. Ethan raised his bow, knocking an arrow in one smooth motion. The arrow flew true, burying itself in the creature's throat. It thrashed, gurgling before collapsing. "You have killed Hybrons." Without their leader, the smaller monsters fell into disarray, attacking with brute force rather than coordination. The defenders capitalized immediately, their disciplined formation cutting down the confused beasts. Ethan moved through the chaotic melee like a ghost with his blade, slashing throats and vocal cords. The soldiers fought with renewed vigor, inspired by Ethan's example. What had seemed a hopeless situation minutes ago now felt winnable. The soldiers fought with renewed vigor, inspired by Ethan's example. What had seemed a hopeless situation minutes ago now felt winnable. "Fall back and regroup," the sergeant ordered as the number of monsters fell. "Check the wounded." Ethan scanned the wall, noting with satisfaction that their success was being replicated along the wall. The repair crews had managed to close or narrow several breaches, and the defenders were using the choke points exactly as he'd suggested. For the first time since the battle began, the monsters were no longer at an advantage. Boom! The walls rattled as the crystal gorilla managed to get a good hit on the general. The impact sent him flying through a section of the battlements, disappearing in a cloud of dust and debris. Soldiers cried out in alarm, their momentary victory forgotten. "The general," a soldier shouted, starting forward only to be held back by his comrades. "Stay in formation," Sergeant Way commanded, though his own face had paled. "Hold the line." The general emerged from the debris, silver aura flickering weakly around him. Blood streamed from a gash across his forehead. Despite his injuries, he gripped his sword firmly in his right hand, his expression turning grim. "He isn't going to last long. I need to help them," Ethan thought as he watched the fight between the general with the officials and the massive silver-rank beast. The crystal ape beat its chest in triumph, the crystals that ran along its spine glowing with energy. It sensed victory, its prey weakened and vulnerable. Ethan made his decision instantly. Turning to Sergeant Way, he spoke. "Keep the smaller monsters contained. I'm going to help the general. Focus on defense. Once we beat the gorilla, we will have the upper hand, and they will most likely retreat or spread out to attack other parts." Way's eyes widened. "Against a silver rank? You said yourself you're only Hybrons." Ethan did not reply, already moving toward the confrontation. Ethan sprinted along the wall, leaping over debris and fallen soldiers. The crystal ape had cornered the general against a partially collapsed tower, each thunderous blow further weakening the structure around them. The general parried a devastating swing, his silver aura flaring briefly before dimming again. Fatigue and injury were taking their toll. Ethan assessed the situation as he ran. The ape's crystalline growths provided formidable defense, but they didn't make him invincible. Its joints remained vulnerable, as did the unprotected areas beneath its arms and the soft tissue of its neck. As he ran towards the fight, Ethan spotted a familiar figure. Jack! His eyes widened as he watched him cornered by 4 beasts near the wall. This idiot! Why did he not listen? Ethan thought grimly, as he immediately headed in his direction. Jack, who was cornered, was scared shitless. "Is this how I die? I should have listened to Ethan. They came so quickly, I was unable to," he muttered as tears flowed from his face. He wasn't used to such confrontations. His position was at the wall. As the 4 beasts attacked, Jack closed his eyes, already accepting his fate. But it didn't come to him. All he heard was, "Shing, shing, shing." The blade tore through 4 beasts, leaving them like sushi on the floor. His eyes opened to find a figure in front of him, and the 4 beasts dead. Ethan turned towards him. "What are you doing here? I told you to run." "I couldn't." Ethan shook his head. "Forget it. Come with me," he said, supporting him by his shoulders before leaping onto the wall. "You can either fight inside the walls or go to your family. You decide, but just know that I won't be able to help you anymore," he said, leaving him stunned. Ethan was so powerful that he was stunned. Ethan did not wait for a response, immediately darting back towards the general. "Thank you, Ethan," Jack shouted, before immediately going to safety. The crystal ape roared, its massive fists hammering against the fortifications with earth-shaking force. The general parried another devastating blow, silver aura flickering like a candle in a storm as fatigue set in. Ethan analyzed the battlefield in seconds, evaluating strengths and weaknesses. The general's technique was flawless, but his power, stamina, and mana reserves were failing. Ethan reached into his storage ring, fingers closing around a bronze dagger he'd taken from Hanwei's collection. The weapon was unremarkable save for the quick-acting paralytic smeared across its blade. It wouldn't paralyze the ape, but it would slow him down a little. "I need a distraction," Ethan muttered, eyes tracking the crystal ape's movements. As if answering his request, the general launched a desperate assault, silver aura coalescing around his blade. The monster raised its arm to block, crystals glowing brighter as it activated its defensive talent. Ethan didn't waste the opportunity. He leapt, enhanced speed carrying him across the battlement in a blur of motion. His trajectory took him directly toward the monster's exposed flank, the opposite side for where the general engaged it. Time seemed to slow as Ethan activated his iron enhancement, hardening his skin against the expected counterattack. His trajectory put him directly on a collision course with the ape's unguarded kidney region. The first dagger, his regular weapon, plunged into soft tissue between crystalline plates. The monster roared, twisting to dislodge him. Ethan used the momentum to swing around its massive torso, withdrawing his blade only to strike again in another vulnerable spot. 3 rapid strikes, each targeting the gaps in the creature's natural armor. The ape howled, crystalline growths flaring with defensive energy. Then Ethan drove the poisoned dagger deep into the unprotected flesh beneath its arm. The effect was almost immediate. The paralytic designed to incapacitate humans wasn't strong enough to fully immobilize a silver-rank beast. But it did exactly what Ethan needed. It slowed the monster's reactions just enough. The general stood shocked at the performance of Ethan. He was incredibly powerful, and he had never seen him before. "Quick!" the general shouted, recovering quickly. "Attack him now!" The general did not waste a chance and attacked alongside the peak bronze officials. Their movements synchronized with years of battlefield experience, each strike precisely aimed at the vulnerabilities Ethan had exposed. The general did not waste the chance and attacked alongside the peak bronze officials. The crystal ape roared in pain and fury as multiple weapons found their marks between its crystalline plates. Its blood poured from a dozen wounds, its movements no longer as agile as the paralytic spread through its massive system. But a silver-rank beast wasn't so easily defeated. As the poison's effect began to fade, the monster's eyes focused on Ethan with terrifying intelligence. It recognized the source of its agony. "Watch out!" someone shouted as the ape suddenly lunged, abandoning its battle with the general to target this new, more dangerous threat. Ethan attempted to dodge, but the creature's massive fist connected with unexpected speed. The impact sent him flying across the battlements, his protective shield talent activating too late to fully absorb the blow. His trajectory carried him directly into a cluster of lesser monsters that had managed to scale the wall. The collisions scattered them like pins, but several immediately recovered, sensing vulnerable prey. Ethan rolled to his feet, ignoring the sharp pain in his ribs as he assessed his new predicament. 5 bronze-rank beasts surrounded him, with more iron-rank beasts circling behind them. "Perfect," he muttered sarcastically, drawing his second dagger. A wolf-like creature lunged first, teeth bared for his throat. Ethan sidestepped, blade slicing across its flank. But the maneuver put him directly in the path of a bear monster's swipe. The claws raked across his back, finding purchase despite his iron enhancement. Warm blood soaked through his torn clothing. His F+ rank regeneration talent was working non-stop, trying to lessen the burden. Ethan spun, daggers flashing in a deadly arc that opened the bear's throat. 2 down, but 3 bronze ranks still circled him, with more scaling the wall by the second. You have killed peak bronze brown bear. Ethan, in close proximity to the bear, did not waste the opportunity and devoured its talent. His regeneration talent grew stronger, although it wasn't enough to evolve to E rank. From across the battlement, the general shouted orders as he renewed his assault on the wounded crystal ape. Eastern Squad, support him. But the soldiers were too far away, engaged in their own desperate battles. Eastern Squad, support him. But the soldiers were too far away, engaged in their own desperate battles. Time to start killing them from within, he thought, as he transformed into the brown bear he had just killed. I need to regenerate faster. I will stay in the bear transformation and take advantage of its E rank regeneration talent. When I'm healed, the massacre will start again, he thought with a smile, before he activated his shield talent and allowed himself to get drowned by the beasts. In the middle of the beasts, Ethan was no longer visible to anyone watching. And to the monsters, he vanished too. Transformation active, brown bear, peak bronze. Ethan immediately barged out of the encirclement as half the beasts looked confused. Bronze beasts are so stupid, huh? They can't even tell, he thought as he left the area and headed somewhere else on the battlefield, occasionally killing a few monsters in what appeared to be an accident. The battlefield was chaos, perfect for his plan. Monsters swarmed everywhere, soldiers fought desperately, and nobody paid attention to one more bear in the mix. Ethan lumbered through the carnage, his massive bear form blending perfectly with the other beasts. Each step sent waves of healing through his body as the bear's regeneration talent worked its magic. His wounds closed, strength returning with each passing moment. A peak bronze wolf sniffed at him suspiciously. Ethan growled, batting it away with enough force to nearly crush its skull. The nearby monsters barely noticed. Friendly fire wasn't unusual in their frenzied state. Too easy, he thought, slashing through another monster that wandered too close. From atop the wall, soldiers watched in confusion as monsters began falling mysteriously, seemingly attacking each other. Meanwhile, the crystal ape roared in frustration, scanning the battlefield for its vanished prey. Its crystalline eyes glowed with malevolent intelligence as it sensed something wrong. Ethan felt the silver rank's attention sweeping the area. He quickly dived into a denser cluster of monsters, playing the part of a mindless beast scavenging for easier kills. The ruse worked. The ape turned back to its battle with the general, crystals flaring as it renewed its assault. Perfect, Ethan thought. That attack from the ape was like a damn truck it took so long to heal. Feeling that his body was replenished, Ethan found the perfect time and place to transform and return to his human form. Transformation has been canceled. Perfect, Ethan thought. That attack from an ape was like a damn truck it took so long to heal. Feeling that his body was replenished, Ethan found the perfect time and place to transform and return to his human form. Transformation has been canceled. Seeing a human in their midst, the monsters began attacking once more. But Ethan paid them barely any attention as he killed a few whilst running back to help the general, who began to lose his fight against the ape once again. The ape, now more attentive and vigilant, did not fall for the same trick as Ethan once again tried to do a sneak attack, but failed. Shit, Ethan cursed as the crystal ape's massive fist swept through the air where he'd been a split second earlier. The beast roared, its crystalline eyes tracking his movements with unnerving intelligence. No more would it fall for his tactics. It had learned, adapted. That was the terrifying thing about silver rank monsters. They weren't just stronger, they were smarter. Fall back, the general shouted, blood streaming from a fresh gash across his forehead. His silver aura flickered weakly as he parried another devastating blow. Ethan ignored the command, ducking under a crystallized arm to slash at the monster's exposed flank. His dagger scraped against hardened crystal, barely leaving a scratch. The ape twisted with impossible speed, backhanding Ethan with enough force to send him crashing into the battlements. "I told you to fall back," the general snapped, using the distraction to create distance between himself and the monster. Ethan rolled to his feet, ignoring the fresh pain blossoming in his ribs. "You were losing, and now we're both losing," the general retorted, though a grudging respect colored his tone. The crystal ape beat its massive chest, crystals humming with deadly energy as it prepared another charge. Soldiers scrambled to form a defensive line, their faces pale with fear but determined. "We need to coordinate," Ethan said, mind racing through possibilities. "It's expecting individual attacks now." The general nodded sharply. "My thoughts exactly." He turned to his men. "Spear formation. On my signal." The soldiers quickly reorganized, the front line kneeling with spears braced while the second rank positioned their weapons in the gaps. A bristling wall of steel points suddenly faced the monster. "And what will you do?" the general asked Ethan without taking his eyes off the ape. Ethan's lips curled into a cold smile. "What I do best." He unsheathed Hanwei's sword, then pulled something from his storage ring, a small clay flask sealed with wax. The contents sloshed audibly as he hefted it. "Oil," the general guessed. "Better," Ethan replied. "Alchemical fire. Burns even underwater." He glanced at the general. "I will distract it. You can find the right moment to attack with your men. Once you attack, I want you to at least hold its attention for 1 second." The general nodded, a grim smile of understanding crossing his bloodied face. 1 second is all you need." "1 second is all I'll get," Ethan replied, already moving. The crystal ape roared, beating its chest as crystalline growths flared with deadly light. It charged the spear wall with earth-shaking steps, each footfall cracking the ancient stone beneath. Ethan darted to the side, Hanwei's sword glinting in the sun as he zigzagged across the battlements. The blade wasn't his preferred weapon, but it would serve its purpose, getting the monster's attention. "Hey, crystal shit," he shouted, slashing his sword against the wall to create a shower of sparks. The ape hesitated, its primitive intelligence recognizing the human who'd wounded it earlier. Its massive head swiveled toward Ethan, momentarily forgetting the spear wall. "That's right," Ethan taunted, backing away. "Remember me?" The monster roared, abandoning its charge to pursue this more hated enemy. Soldiers exchanged uncertain glances, unprepared for this change in tactics. "Hold position," the general barked. "Wait for my signal." Ethan led the ape on a deadly dance across the battlements, always staying just beyond its reach. Each time the monster lunged, he dodged with enhanced speed, letting its massive fist crash into stone instead of flesh. "Is he insane?" "One wrong move, and he is almost a banana to eat," a soldier whispered, watching Ethan taunt the silver rank monster. "Shut up and be ready," another hissed back. The crystal ape grew increasingly frustrated, its attacks becoming wilder, less coordinated. "Perfect. It's losing its cool. But wow, is it fast. It's nearly putting up with my speed without any speed talent." Ethan's eyes never left the flask clutched in his left hand. Timing would be everything. Too soon, and the monster might recover. Too late, and he'd miss his window. "General," he shouted, ducking under another devastating swing. "Now!" The general's silver aura flared like a beacon. "Advance!" The spear wall surged forward as one, dozens of steel points driving into the monster's back and flanks. The ape howled in pain and rage, momentarily forgetting Ethan as it twisted to face this new threat. That single moment was all Ethan needed. He darted forward, enhanced speed carrying him directly behind the distracted beast. With precision, he hurled the flask at the monster's back, aiming for the spot where the spears had already pierced its crystal armor. The flask shattered on impact, alchemical fire spreading across the monster's back in viscous blue flames. Simultaneously, Ethan activated his fire talent, pouring mana into the flames. The blue fire turned crimson, then blazing white as it consumed the monster's flesh. The crystal ape shrieked, a sound like shattering glass amplified 100-fold. It thrashed wildly, clawing at its burning back. "Push!" the general roared, his silver aura condensing around his blade. "Drive it back!" The soldiers redoubled their efforts, spears attacking the monster from every angle. Each strike found its mark with precise coordination. Although the attacks weren't lethal, as they weren't strong enough, they still did very minor damage that made the ape angry and lose control. The other monsters, watching their leader lose, immediately stopped their attack on the walls and returned to help their leader. Like a tide pulling back from shore, the lesser beasts abandoned their assault in favor of protecting the wounded silver rank. Seeing that, Ethan smiled. "Counterattack. Kill the monsters that are running. Their backs are towards you." The general also glanced and noticed that, eyes widening at the tactical opportunity. "He is good." Sergeant Wei and his squad exchanged surprised looks, then broke into fierce grins. "You heard him," Wei shouted, raising his blood-stained spear. "They're running. Chase them down." A young soldier hesitated, grip tightening nervously on his weapon. "Sergeant, is that wise?" "Leaving the wall undefended. The wall doesn't need defending if nothing's attacking it." Wei shot back, already moving. "Now move your ass, or I'll kick it down there myself." The soldiers leapt into action, racing along the parapet to rain arrows and spears on the retreating monsters below. Others rushed down staircases to engage directly, catching the creatures from behind. Front line. Leave the ape. Attack the monsters, sandwich them. Leave the ape to the general and the officials. Ethan commanded, his voice cutting through the chaos with unexpected authority. For a heartbeat, the soldiers hesitated, caught between his order and their official chain of command. "Do as he says," the general shouted, as he fought against the crystal ape who started regaining its footing. That was all they needed.